Chapter 313. Starlight sprinkled on the earth. On the official road between Lanyan City and Sangnan Province, the sound of horses' hooves was dense. Under the moonlight, the Empire's war flag's golden purple flower fluttered in the air, very bright. Qin Yin, dressed in a dark purple princess cloak, once again set foot on this abandoned land. All sorts of feelings welled up in her, but most of them were nostalgia for the deceased. She looked at Lanyan City under the moonlight from afar, her heart indescribably uncomfortable. When she thought of Lin Muyu dying in battle at the south gate of Lanyan City, Qin Yin's heart ached as if it was pierced by thousands of arrows. "Grandfather, I want to enter the city from the south gate," she said softly. Su Muyun looked at her with heartache and nodded. "Yes, we will listen to Xiao Yin." Beside him, Su Yu turned around and ordered, "Pass the order to the 3 armies to wait in the north and east of the city. The front army will follow Her Highness to the south gate. No one is allowed to clash with the army of Qihai City, otherwise, they will be punished according to military law." Everyone nodded in unison. Wei Chou, Chu Yao, and Qin Yin followed closely behind Qin Yin. They all knew the reason why Qin Yin went through the south gate. At night, the cold wind blew. Qin Yin wrapped her clothes tightly around her chest. Her beautiful eyes looked at the newly repaired south gate. There were still huge cracks and traces of newly built walls on the wall. Even the gate was pieced together, its defense could be said to be very weak. However, the swaying purple flower war flag on the wall was like iron chains, stabilizing the crumbling building. On the city wall, the torch swayed. Tang Jin's eyes were stern as he said, "Is it Her Highness Qin Yin's men?" Wei Chou flew forward and looked up. "General Tang Jin, don't you recognize me, Wei Chou?" Tang Jin had mixed feelings. "It's Lord Wei Chou, of course I know him." "Her Highness Yin. Where is Her Highness Yin?" "Princess, she wants to see Her Highness Yin. Can she?" In the crowd, Su Yu held a steel knife and stood in front of Qin Yin, saying, "Shield formation, protect Her Highness." A group of people guarded her left and right, but Qin Yin smiled and said, "No need, disperse. Anyone in this world can harm me, but Xiao Shi will never." She urged her horse forward and slowly walked out of the crowd. Strands of golden god-binding chains coiled around her body. She raised her head and looked up at the city. "Little Shi, it's me." On the city wall, a golden light soared into the sky. Tang Xiaoxi, who could not control her emotions, turned into a 9-tailed demon fox. Her 9 fiery red tails swayed slowly, and she jumped down from the city wall. Under the control of her power, she slowly landed. When she raised her head, her eyes were already full of tears. She cried and said, "Xiao Mumu is dead." Qin Yin looked at her with tears flowing down her face. Xiao Shi, the 2 sisters hugged each other and cried in grief. They both understood how it felt to lose a loved one. Everything could never go back. It was like a house on fire. Looking at its gray walls and broken walls, even though they knew it was home, they could never go back. The sound of hooves slowly approached. Chu Yao mounted the horse and put her hands on Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin's shoulders, saying, "Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi, don't cry. If Yu is watching from heaven, he would want to see your smiles instead of you grieving for him. Doesn't the Yu we know always face everyone with a smile?" "Tis." Qin Yin lowered her head and wiped away her tears, saying, I know. As she spoke, she looked deeply at Tang Xiaoxi and held her hand, saying, "Xiao Shi, you've suffered. If it wasn't for you, I'm afraid the empire would have been doomed." Tang Xiaoxi murmured, "I thought I could save Mu, but I didn't. I'm really useless." "No." Qin Yin softly said, "You've already tried your best. I'm the useless one. I've always needed someone else's protection, but I can't help anyone. I'm the burden." "Xiao Yin, don't say that. You're the Empire's only hope. Only you can unite this disintegrated continent." At this moment, Su Muyun and Su Er rode over. Su Muyun cupped his fists and said, "Old subject Su Muyun greets Princess Shi." Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly said, "You're too polite, Duke Yun. I'm just a junior, so I can't accept such a greeting from Duke Yun." Tang Xiaoxi greets Duke Yun. "Ha, Su Muyun laughed and said, I heard that Princess Tang Xiaoxi is guarding Lanyan City and doesn't even allow the Seven Seas City's army to enter the city. She's waiting for Xiao Yin alone. This old subject is touched by her loyalty and friendship. Since that's the case, our Twilight Rain City's army won't enter Lanyan City anymore. Tang Xiaoxi smiled faintly and said, Lanyan City is already riddled with the flames of war. If Duke Yun doesn't mind, then you can station outside the city. The heavy responsibility of rebuilding Lanyan City requires even more troops, and the 200,000 troops that Duke Yun is leading will be just enough to help. All right. Su Muyun cupped his fists and said, the Twilight Rain City's army is under Her Highness Ho Yin and Princess Xi's command. Then, shall we enter the city? I heard that Duke Lan is also outside the city. Quickly send someone to invite him into Zhe Tian Palace. As they passed through the south gate, Qin Yin raised her head and looked at the huge pothole on the city wall. Her eyes couldn't help but turn red. Big brother Yu, is he there? Tang Xiaoxi nodded and said in a sobbing voice, yes. It said that when Mu was killed by Luo Lan, a Catasaurus created many dragon crystals to protect Mu's body. However, these dragon crystals were secretly taken away by the Iha nation's bastards. No one knows where Mu's body is. I've sent many people to look for it, but there's been no news. Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were filled with hatred as she said, this debt must be paid with blood by the Iha nation. Also, send more people to find Big Brother Yu's body. Su Er cupped his fists. I understand. I'll definitely send more people to look for him. Yes, thank you, Enner. You're too polite, Your Highness. This is what I should do. Everything in the capital seemed to have been destroyed, but it still retained its original appearance. As they passed by the Holy Temple and the Spiritual Medicine Department, they saw that the two temples had been destroyed by the fire. However, the sturdy walls and stone buildings were still there. On the ground, there was a huge pothole that was being filled up. Everyone urged their horses to go around it. Qin Yin couldn't help but take another look. Tang Xiaoxi said faintly, Great Deacon Lei Hong was killed by the hierarch Luo Lan here. Grandpa Lei Hong. Qin Yin's eyes dimmed as she said, How did Big Brother Qin Lei die? Tang Xiaoxi's expression darkened as she said, Commander Qin Lei was surrounded and killed by Ji Yao's cavalry archers. His body was hit by hundreds of arrows, and in the end, his head was chopped off by LV Zhao. It said that LV Zhao soaked Commander Qin Lei's head in a potion and sent it back to Lingnan. Bastard, Qin Yin clenched her fists, tears in her eyes. The revenge of Iha nation must be repaid with blood. Qin Yin continued. The Holy Temple, the Spiritual Medicine Department, and the Fire Sparrow Department are the pillars of the empire. They must be rebuilt as soon as possible. The Spiritual Medicine Department has been severely damaged. Send some talented alchemists from Seven Seas City and Sunset Rain City to the capital. Su Muyun cupped his fists. Yes, this old subject will handle this matter. Qin Yin nodded. Thank you, grandfather. Also, the Spiritual Medicine Department needs someone skilled in alchemy and medicine to take charge. Sister Chu Yao, I will now officially appoint you as the Great Deacon of the Spiritual Medicine Department. Are you willing? Chu Yao was stunned. She nodded. Chu Yao understands. Yes, thank you, Sister Chu Yao. What are you thanking me for? Chu Yao was stunned. Qin Yin smiled faintly and said, In order to protect the imperial capital, Lord Chu Huayin, a genius, died in battle outside the city. Sister Chu Yao, as an employee of the Spiritual Medicine Department, protected me for a long time at Dragon Rocky Mountain. I understand what the empire owes the Chu family. Chu Yao's expression darkened. She said indifferently, If that's the case, the people the empire owes are you and Commander Feng Jixing. General Feng. Qin Yin was startled and said, Where is General Feng now? Su Er cupped her fists and said, Your Highness, General Feng Jixing led 30,000 troops to fight the rebels at the foot of Heaven's Rod Mountain and was surrounded by 300,000 soldiers. Long Qianlin lied to General Feng and caused 30,000 soldiers to be killed in Fire Badger Valley. The current Feng Jixing isn't the same Feng Jixing as before, He has lost his will to fight. Every day, he buries the corpses of those soldiers. The people I sent to invite him back were all chased away. On the side, Su Muyun said, Xiao Yin Feng Jixing is a famous general, and in terms of leading troops, he isn't any weaker than Long Qianlin. However, he is too kind. Now that the empire needs people, grandfather thinks. Xiao Yin, you should find a suitable chance to personally head to Fire Badger Valley and invite Feng Jixing back to Yanlan City. Let him recruit from the millions of people in Yanlan City to form an invincible army. I will. Qin Yin licked her red lips and asked, Is there any news of Chu? Su Muyun shook his head and said, However, there are rumors that some people saw Chu Chu meet Luo Lan in the north of the city. That night, flames shot into the sky, and many people suspect that Chu Chu died for his country. After all, a saint venerable definitely isn't a match for a godly venerable. Understood. Qin Yin's eyes turned red and said, The chaos in Iha country caused us to lose our loved ones. We must remember this blood debt for the rest of our lives. Yes. Su, nodded. Qin Yin said, Grandfather, Xiao Yin has something to ask of you. Xiao Yin. In the Qin family's imperial mausoleum, build a monument for the fallen soldiers and call it the Nation Guarding Monument. All the soldiers who can remember their names must leave their names on the Nation Guarding Monument. Is that okay? Su Muyun was stunned, but those who aren't from the nobility don't have the right to enter the Qin family imperial tomb. No, if I say it is okay, then it is okay. Yes, I will follow your orders. Don't worry, Your Highness. I will come up with a name list for the Nation Guarding Monument. Thank you, Grandfather. Chapter 314. The Zetian Palace was brightly lit and everything was the same as before. The only difference was that there were fewer people and treasures. Tang Lan led the ministers of Qihai City into the imperial capital. In the middle of the night, no one had the slightest desire to sleep because this night was too important for the empire. This was the first meeting between the emperor and his ministers after the war. It also meant that there would be a new direction in the distribution of power in the empire. With the help of Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Yin walked step by step to the throne. When she lifted the hem of her skirt and sat down gently, all the ministers knelt on one knee and shouted, Your ministers greet your majesty. Your majesty? Qin Yin shook her head and said, Just call me your highness. In my heart, Father is the real radiant king. Moreover, the empire has fallen apart and the territory is less than half of what it used to be. I am no longer the emperor. Su Muyun nodded and said, Yes, your highness. Qin Yin's beautiful eyes flickered with a beautiful light. She looked at the crowd and said, Tell me, how many troops of the empire are in Lanyan City now? Don't hide anything. Su Muyun cupped his hands and said, Your Highness, Muyu City currently has a total of 210,000 troops stationed around Lanyan City. Among them, 50,000 cavalrymen are at Your Highness' disposal at any time. Tang Lan cupped his hands and said, Your Highness, this old minister has also brought 110,000 troops from Qihai province. In addition to Xiao Shi's 40,000 troops, Qihai City has a total of 150,000 troops stationed around Lanyan City. At the same time, this old minister has already ordered Qihai province to recruit troops. In less than a month, we will be able to recruit another 100,000 troops. You've worked hard, Duke Lan. Qin Yin smiled. In the crowd, Jianghu General Ling Nantian also cupped his hands and said, Your Highness, this old general has been gathering the scattered troops of the empire around Lanyan City these days. Now, there are more than 7,000 people gathered around Lanyan City and they are at Your Highness' disposal at any time. Thank you for your hard work, General Ling. Qin Yin nodded her head again. At this moment, Qin Yan, the son of King Yuning, who was standing behind Tang Lan, raised his eyebrows and growled with a hint of anger on his face, You are all princes of the empire with hundreds of thousands of soldiers in your hands. When Lanyan City was surrounded by the Iha kingdom, Chu Huang, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Qin Lei fought against the Iha kingdom's army with their lives. Where were you? Are the hundreds of thousands of soldiers in your hands just for show? Or Are you waiting for the fall of the empire to divide the soup? These words caused Tang Lan, Su Muyun, Ling Nantian, and the others to be dumbstruck, and no one actually dared to reply. At this time, Qin Yin stood up and said in a gentle voice, "Qin Yen, there's no need to say any more. The heavy snow has sealed the ancient path in the clouds, and Muyu City's army wants to reinforce Lanyan City but is powerless to do so. As for the Seven Seas province, hasn't Shaoxi already led an army of 50,000 to come to the rescue? I believe that every one of the empire's ministers here is loyal." Qin Yen gritted his teeth and said, "Yes, Your Highness." Qin Yin raised her head and glanced at Tang Lan, saying with a smile, "Duke Lan, Xiao Yin has something to say, but I don't know if I should say it." Tang Lan was startled and said, "Your Highness, speak. This old subject is listening." Shaoxi leads the troops well. Moreover, you have interacted with the 40,000 soldiers of the Sharp Peak Battalion under Tangjin for a long time. Why not hand over the military authority of these 40,000 soldiers of the Seven Seas City to Shaoxi? Lanyan City is being rebuilt, and the situation is chaotic. I want to let Shaoxi lead this army of 40,000 soldiers and hold the authority of the Imperial Army before the Imperial Army is rebuilt. Is that possible? Qin Yin looked at Tang Lan calmly and said. Tang Lan's gaze was calm as he cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness is the monarch of a nation, and your words carry enormous weight. The Sharp Peak Battalion is the army of Seven Seas City, and also the army of the Empire. This old subject will do as you say." Good. Qin Yin smiled faintly and said, "Promote Tangjin to the Western General, and rename the 40,000 troops under him the Nation Guarding Army. They will all be under your command. In addition, you must listen to Tang Xiaoxi. Other than Shaoxi and me, you don't need to listen to anyone else. Understood?" Tangjin cupped his fists excitedly. "This general obeys the decree." By the side, Tang Xiaoxi also snickered secretly and said, "Xiao Yin is really smart." However, it was obvious that Tang Lan wouldn't be too happy with Qin Yin's separation of military power. These 40,000 soldiers would be renamed the Nation Guarding Army, and Tangjin would be replaced by a group of trusted subordinates, such as captaincy and kiliarchs. Then, the military power of this army would really be completely in the hands of Qin Yin. In fact, Qin Yin also knew that although she was now the ruler of a nation, the military forces were not in her hands at all. She could not guess the thoughts of her grandfather, Su Muyun, at all. Tang Lan, on the other hand, was a person who kept a low profile and bided his time. No one knew where the future of the empire lay. When Iha Nation attacked Lanyan City, it was a battle. But now, it was a battle of power without the shadow of a sword. A map was unfolded in the center of the main hall. There were burn marks on the edges, but there was no other way. Zetian Palace was almost completely looted, and there was no way to find a second map. It was too late to ask the craftsmen to draw a temporary one, so they could only make do with it for now. Qin Yin stepped down from the throne, and her pale golden boots stepped on the blood-red carpet to the side of the map. She said lightly, "Lanyan City is adjacent to Zhangnan Province, Tianshu Province, and Earthstar Province. Since Lanyan City has been recovered, the next step is to recover these three provinces. If anyone has any suggestions or opinions, please feel free to voice them out." Ling Nantian cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, Yuchi Tian of Tianshu Province is a two-faced villain. He previously surrendered to Iha Nation, but now he has sent a letter saying that he is willing to return to the Empire. The 40,000 Tianshu army under him is even more willing to fight at the forefront for the Empire." Despicable villain. Wei Chou clenched his fists and said, "It was this army who sent a fake letter and deceived General Feng into leading 30,000 imperial soldiers out of the city. Otherwise, Lanyan City might not have to suffer this disaster." Qin Yen said angrily, "Your Highness, you must reject Yuchi Tian's surrender. A debt of blood must be paid in blood." Qin Yin waved her hand and said, "The Iha Nation still has nearly 300,000 troops. We are not sure that we can win, so we should try to gain as much strength as possible. Later, we will send people to take over the Heavens Pivot Province. At present, we only have to deal with 2 cities, the Five Valley City and the Cold Star City. Tang Lan said, Your Highness, you don't need to worry about Lengxing City. I have already sent General Xiang to lead 3,000 cavalry to attack. With General Xiang's ability, I believe that Lengxing City will be taken in less than 3 days. Qin Yin was startled. I wonder which General Xiang is Master Lan talking about. General Xiang Yu. Xiang Yu? Qin Yin was stunned. Wasn't Xiang Yu secretly executed by Lord Chu Huayin? Tang Lu, who was beside Tang Lan, cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, you may not know this, but Lord Chu Huayin is a benevolent general with a kind heart, so he didn't kill Xiang Yu and only ordered him to go far away. Grandfather knows Xiang Yu's ability, so he sent people to find Xiang Yu who lived in seclusion when the empire fell. He gave him a troop and ordered him to work for the empire again to make up for his mistakes. I see. Qin Yin nodded. That's good. As long as Xiang Yu can conquer the rebel army in Lengxing City, he will be forgiven for his previous crimes. Thank you, Your Highness. Tang Lan cupped his fists and bowed. As for Wugu City, Qin Yin blinked and said, According to the military intelligence, Zhenan King Qin Yi, that old thing, will personally lead 200,000 troops to guard Wugu City. I wonder who is willing to attack Wugu City? Tang Lan was silent. Everyone was also very quiet. It seemed that no one was willing to challenge the 200,000 troops of Wugu City. At this moment, Zhenan General Ling Nantian cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, since all the generals are so modest, this old general is willing to go. I only hope that Your Highness can allocate more troops for this old general to attack Wugu City. After all, this old general only has less than 10,000 troops under his command. Qin Yin smiled and said, In that case, Duke Lan, Grandfather, each of you will allocate 50,000 troops for General Ling to attack Wugu City. How about that? Su Muyun cupped his fists and said, Yes, Your Highness. Although Tang Lan was unwilling, he couldn't do it openly, so he also cupped his fists and said, This old subject will gather 50,000 troops tomorrow and hand them over to General Ling Nantian to command. Your Highness can rest assured. That's good. All the provisions will be provided by Qihai City and Muyu City, respectively. Yes. Everyone had their own thoughts, so they didn't say much. Qin Yin took a cup of tea from the maid and took a sip. She sat on the throne and waited for everyone to report anything else. Su Yu whispered to Su Muyun, Father, why don't we attack the Five Valley City ourselves? Why do we have to hand it over to Ling Nantian, an old general who hasn't been on the battlefield for a long time? What if we lose 50,000 men? They are our elite soldiers. Su Muyun shook his head and said softly, Do you think I don't want to? But Qin Yi has many famous generals under his command. The newly conferred 7 marshals of the Yihe nation are all there. Ji Yao, Lv Zhao, Ding Shi, and Long Qianlin. None of these people are easy to deal with. As for us, after your brother's death, there is no real general in the Muyu City who can take charge of an area. Yu, if Father asks you to personally lead the troops to attack the Five Valleys City, do you have a chance of winning? Su'er was stunned and said helplessly, I am not as brave as brother, so I really don't have the confidence. Yes. Su Muyun said calmly, Follow Father to Fire Badger Valley tomorrow. Why are we going to Fire Badger Valley? To find Feng Jixing. If we can get Feng Jixing's help, our Muyu City army will be invincible. Yes. After a while, Wei Chou suddenly cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, I have something to say. Qin Yin looked at him and smiled, Sir Wei Chou, just say what you want to say. Wei Chou looked at Qin Yin with clear eyes and said, Although Sir Lin Muyu died for the country, the Longdan army camp is still there. I hope that Your Highness can allow us to rebuild the Longdan army camp. As long as the Longdan army camp is there, Sir Lin Muyu's soul will be there. Qin Yin was moved and her eyes turned red. The Longdan army camp is Brother Yu's private army? Okay, I will immediately promote Sir Wei Chou to rank 4 general and be the commander of the Longdan army camp. Luo Yu, Feng Shi, and Qin Yan will be deputy generals and be the deputy commanders of the Longdan army camp. The Longdan army camp will be the official army of the empire and the funds will be taken from the empire's treasury. Tomorrow we can recruit new soldiers in Lanyan City. Yes. In the mountains, the crystals buried deep in the ground shone with a faint purple light. A voice continued to grumble, "Is my god power not enough to wake you up? How long are you going to sleep for, Lin Ruoji? Do you really want to wait until Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi marry someone else and have kids before you wake up? The spiritual sense fluctuations are stronger? Hee Lin Ruoji, it seems like you still care about these bitches. Quick, then wake up for this great emperor." Chapter 3:15. Winter passed and spring came, but Fire Badger Valley didn't have any signs of spring at all. What replaced it was a deathly silence. The newly grown grass in the soil was turned to ashes by a huge fire. At the same time, the 30,000 lives of the guard's army died. Bugs flew about the valley and the stench filled the air. A few wild dogs were fighting for the leg of a guard army soldier and rotten liquid splattered all around. Bastard! A blade energy flashed across and instantly 2 wild dogs were sliced into 2. Feng Jixing walked forwards and grabbed the leg of the guard army's corpse. He placed it in the deep hole at the side and then continued to drag the other corpses. His originally handsome face was now filled with death energy. Feng Jixing stumbled and black spots appeared on his wrists and face. That was the sign of the corpse poison invading his body. Luckily he had high cultivation. If it was a normal person who lived in such an environment for so long, they would have died long ago. Do. The sound of horse hooves spread out and a bunch of cavalry galloped into Fire Badger Valley. It was Su Muyun, Su Yu, and the others from Muyu City. Su Yu saw it clearly and pointed, "Father, General Feng is there, but this place, it smells," and Su Muyu nodded and said, "Let's go over." The bunch of them avoided the rotten corpses of the guard's army and came to Feng Jixing's side. Su Yu got off the horse and cupped her fists. "General Feng, do you still recognize me? I am Cloud Province Duke Yun's daughter, Su Yu." Feng Jixing dragged a corpse step by step to the deep hole and placed it in. It was as if he didn't see Su Yu and the others arrive. Su Yu frowned and said, "General Feng, you are..." Feng Jixing grabbed the wind cutter blade that was stabbed into the ground. His gaze turned cold and he said, Are you all here to steal the corpse? Scram, otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless." Su Yu stood there in a daze. "General Feng." On the side, Su Muyun got off the horse and held a golden staff. He looked calmly at Feng Jixing and said, "General Feng, the 30,000 soldiers are the pride of the empire. Are you willing to let them rest in this desolate Fire Badger Valley? Don't tell me, you have the heart to let the beasts dig the soil and eat their corpses?" Feng Jixing suddenly stopped in his tracks and looked at the ground that was covered with dark red blood stains. Su Muyun continued, "General Feng, Her Highness Qin Yin isn't dead. She has returned to Zhe Tian Hall. Now Lanyan City is back in the hands of the Empire. Cloud Province and Seven Sea Province have hundreds of thousands of troops protecting Lanyan City. Iha country has already retreated back to Five Valley City. Moreover, Her Highness Qin Yin has already ordered the construction of a country-guarding monument to bury these soldiers who sacrificed their lives for the Empire. In my opinion, the 30,000 soldiers should be buried under the country-guarding monument. What does General Feng think?" Feng Jixing turned around and stared at Su Muyun with a pair of beast-like eyes. He said calmly, "Su Muyun, do you think I, Feng Jixing, don't know what kind of person you are? The capital has been surrounded for so many days and the people of Cloud Province can even crawl over. Yet, you allowed Lanyan City to be ravaged by the Iha country bastards and caused Her Highness Qin Yin to die. Now that the Radiant King is dead, I'm afraid that all the power in the world is in your hands, right?" Su Muyun was taken aback. He said, "General Feng, as Duke Yun, I didn't even hold you accountable for killing my son, Su Qin. Why do you have to get to the bottom of it and hold me, Su Muyun, accountable for my negligence? If you were a father, you would do the same thing. Right now, Xiao Yin is my Su Myun's only hope. The only thing I want to do is for Xiao Yin to become the ruler of this world and raze the Iha nation to the ground. What do you want me to do? Feng Jixing asked calmly. Su Myun smiled. Command the army of Twilight Rain City and sweep across the northern mountains. First, drive the Iha country bastards from Lingnan to the south of the Qinling Mountains. Now that the empire has many things to do, Jianghu has been reactivated by Tang Lan, Chu Huayin and Lin Muyu have died in battle, Xiao Yin and I can only use you. I hope that General Feng will come out of seclusion again for the sake of the people of the empire. Chu, you, Feng Jixing frowned and tears welled up in his eyes. He lowered his head and remained silent for a long time. Finally, he raised his head and looked at Su Muyun and Su Yu. He said, I, Feng Jixing, am a sinner. I will only leave after I bury my 30,000 brothers. Moreover, I can't just listen to your side of the story. Before I see the nation-guarding monument and Her Highness Qinin, I will not serve anyone. Got it? Su Muyun nodded. I will prove it to you. As he spoke, Su Muyun got on his horse and shouted to the guards, the few of you stay here and gather firewood to cremate the bodies of the imperial guards. Bring their ashes to the nation-guarding monument. In addition, go to Great Deacon Chu Yao and summon the medical officer from the spiritual medicine department to come here and treat General Feng's injuries. No one is to be negligent. Everyone cupped their fists together. Yes, Sir Yun. On the way back, the mottled shadows of the trees scattered on the ground. Su Yu held the reins and frowned. Her black cloak swayed gently behind her. You, what are you thinking about? Su Muyun asked. Su Yu smiled faintly. Father, I'm thinking. Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, and Qin Lei. These four are indeed outstanding. It's a pity that the heavens are jealous of their talents. Now only Feng Jixing is left. Outstanding, Su Muyun smiled thoughtfully. Outstanding people can't go against the heavens. The death of Chu Huayin, Lin Muyu, and Qin Lei was the will of the heavens. The fact that Feng Jixing is still alive means that the heavens are looking out for the Qin Empire. They gave us the bloodline of a famous general. Otherwise, we won't be able to fight against the powerful Iha country. Su Yu nodded and said, Father, what are you thinking? Can you tell me? Su Muyun was stunned. What am I thinking? The future, the empire. Sigh. Su Muyun sighed and said faintly, Xiao Yin is still young, but she has to bear everything in front of her. The Iha country will definitely make a comeback. Tang Lan, that old fox, is also eyeing us covetously. The only thing we can do now is to protect Xiao Yin and the royal power of Lanyan City. Don't let Tang Lan have the upper hand. I'm afraid that when the time comes, that old fox might cripple Xiao Yin and make Tang Xiaoxi the empress. Su Yu opened her mouth in shock. It can't be. After all, Xiao Yin has the bloodline of the Qin family, but Tang Xiaoxi doesn't. Who knows? The premise is that we have a stronger military force than the opponent. But we don't have an absolute advantage against the Qihai province, so everything is hard to predict. You, try to delay the dispatch of troops to Wugu City. It would be better if we can delay it until Feng Jixing comes out of seclusion. Father, you don't believe in Ling Nanshan's ability to lead troops. Hee. Su Muyun smiled lightly. If Ling Nantian is really a famous general, I'm afraid Lanyan City won't be in such a miserable state. Alright? You, send more people to the southern border and the western region to find the lost troops of the empire. You must find the whereabouts of Du Hai. He is the first warrior of the empire. If we can use him, it will be even more powerful. Yes, Father. On the 11th of May, news of victory arrived. Jianghu, with a force of 3,000 cavalrymen, had successively conquered Cold Star City, Wugu City, and a total of 11 cities in the Earthstar province. Other than Cold Star City, which resisted slightly, the other cities had already surrendered. On the morning of the 12th, Jianghu led the army back to Lanyan City and was welcomed by the people of Lanyan City. In Zetian Palace, Jianghu led a few trusted generals into the main hall. He smiled and cupped his fists in a dignified manner. General Xiang Yu greets your highness Yin. Qin Yin nodded. General Xiang Yu has made great contributions in quelling the rebellion. Thank you for your hard work. Tang Lan cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, General Xiang Yu is free to quell the rebellion. Moreover, the empire is in need of manpower at this time. Therefore, this old official suggests that Your Highness promote General Xiang Yu to the second-rank state general. Su Muyun frowned and said, Duke Lan, although General Xiang Yu has made great contributions, he is still a sinner. Isn't it too much to promote him to the rank of state general after conquering a mere Earth Star province? Tang Lan smiled. Duke Yun, the Yihe Empire's army has swallowed our empire's territory. It is not easy to take back every inch of our land. Moreover, General Xiang has conquered the entire Earth Star province. Su Er said, What Duke Lan said makes sense. However, if General Xiang Yu can be promoted to the rank of state general after conquering a province, wouldn't he be promoted to the empire's marshal if he conquered 2 provinces in a row? Ah! Tang Lan laughed. General Su Yu is not inferior to men. What you said is very reasonable. How about this? Your Highness, this old official suggests that General Xiang Yu be promoted to the 3rd-rank state general. What do you think? Wei Chou, who was in the crowd, was slightly displeased. He cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, the title of State General originally belonged to Lady Lin Muyu. Tang Lan's gaze turned cold. Although Lin Muyu died in the line of duty for the Empire, she is still a deceased person. Why not? Qin Yin stood up and said lightly, Since Duke Lan insists on conferring the title of Xiang Yu, then let's do as you say. Someone, promote Xiang Yu to the rank of State General and bestow him with the Sword Seal. I hope that General Xiang Yu can continue to serve the Empire and recover the land. This general obeys. Xiang Yu smiled and happily knelt on one knee. Qin Yin looked up at the crowd and asked, How is the battle at 5 Valley City? Su Er cupped her fists and said, Reporting to Your Highness, General Ling Nantian has led 100,000 troops to 5 Valley City. Yu Shu reported that the siege is urgent, but 5 Valley City is guarded by Lingnan's famous General Ding Shi. There are 200,000 troops inside and there are also the troops from Tongtian province. So it is difficult to attack in such a hurry. I'm afraid it will take some time to take down 5 Valley City. Yes, do a good job in defending Lanyan City and prevent the Yihe Empire from invading again. Yes, Your Highness, rest assured that this general will do a good job. Su Er was full of confidence. If she was asked to lead 100,000 troops to attack, she would not be able to do it. But if she was asked to lead tens of thousands of troops to defend the city, this was something she could handle. Chapter 316. Lanyan City, Qin's Imperial Mausoleum. Tens of thousands of people worked together to send the remains of the fallen soldiers into the Imperial Mausoleum. The total number of soldiers who died in the Battle of Lanyan City had exceeded 100,000. A huge dark stone tablet was lined up in a row, and the craftsmen were lying on the bamboo ladder, carving the names of the fallen soldiers onto the nation-guarding monument with tinkling sounds. The nation-guarding monument at the front was also the largest. The names of 10,000 imperial warriors were densely carved on it. Her Highness has arrived. A guard shouted. The craftsmen knelt on both sides of the road. Amidst the sound of horse hooves, Qin Yin led Chu Yao, Tang Xiaoxi, Wei Chou, Qin Yan and the others into the imperial mausoleum. Everyone dismounted one after another. Qin Yin lifted the tassels on her skirt and walked forward step by step. Looking at the names on the nation-guarding monument, she could not help but burst into tears. Chu Yao also looked up at the names on the nation-guarding monument. Her eyes turned red. Brother! Tang Xiaoxi's nose turned sour. Looking up at Lin Muyu's name, her tears flowed down silently. Wei Chou, Qin Yan, Luo Yu and Feng Shi, the 4 generals of the Longdan army camp, quickly knelt on one knee and remained silent to show their remembrance. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, the names on the nation-guarding monument glowed with a golden luster. It was as if it was telling the world the story of the past and those people from the past, Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, Qin Lei, Chu Chu, Lei Hong, Si Kong Fan, Yu Wenxia, Zhuge Yun, Meng Fong, Luo Lai. According to Qin Yin's ranking, Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin and Qin Lei were the top 3. Chu Chu and Lei Hong were the 4th and 5th respectively. Following them were the governor of Five Valleys City, Si Kong Fan, and the former protector of the nation, Yu Wenxia and the others. Among them, the highest-ranking general of the imperial army was Luo Lai, who was ranked as the deputy commander. He was also Feng Jixing's most trusted subordinate. Your Highness. Su Yu stood to the side and helped Qin Yin up. She said softly, the dead are gone. I believe Lord Yu and Chu Huayin will be watching us from the heavens. They will be gratified to see us reclaim the empire's territory. Tang Xiaoxi looked at the nation-guarding monument with determination and said, Shao Yin, I feel that Yu is not dead. It's as if he's still by our side. This feeling can't be wrong. Yu is not dead. Qin Yin looked at Tang Xiaoxi in astonishment and said, Shao Shi, you also have this feeling? Me too. Qin Yin silently looked at Lin Muyu's name on the nation-guarding monument and said, he said he would come back to me, so he definitely wouldn't lie to me. Su Yu helplessly sighed and said, this is just your wishful thinking. Many people saw that you died in battle. This is an indisputable fact. Auntie C, don't say any more. Qin Yin pursed her lips and murmured, I will wait for him. He will come back. It's that simple. Just as she had said to Lin Muyu, the mountains are long and the rivers are far. We will meet again if we are fated to. But would they really meet again? AI, silly girl. Su Er shook her head and did not try to persuade her anymore. Year 7731, 20th of June. 1 month after Ling Nantian set out. The battle report came. Defeated. What? Defeated? Qin Yin angrily asked, how did they lose so thoroughly? The messenger trembled as he knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice, reporting to your highness. Ding Shi privately contacted Yu Qi Tian in the Heavens Pivot province, so Yu Qi Tian sent 20,000 Heavens Pivot soldiers out to cause trouble. That night, Ding Shi led 100,000 soldiers out to attack and successfully defeated Ling Nanshan's army. They are currently regrouping. Regrouping? Qin Yin laughed. What use is there in regrouping? Yu Shu orders Ling Nantian to retreat and Su Yu to lead 50,000 soldiers to welcome the defeated army. If the Iha kingdom pursues, immediately counterattack. Su Yu cupped her fists. Yes, your highness. Tang Lan cupped her fists. Your highness, since Ling Nantian has been defeated, we must appoint a new general. Otherwise, I'm afraid the Iha kingdom will take advantage of this and attack Lanyan City. At that time, we will fall into a passive state. What Duke Lan said makes sense. Qin Yin looked at the crowd. Is there any other general who can go to war for the empire and extinguish the arrogance of the Iha kingdom? Su Muyun frowned. Feng Jixing was not willing to come out of seclusion. Although there were thousands of generals in Muyu City, there was not a single one who could really shoulder the responsibility. Those were only talented generals and not commander-in-chief. At this time, one of the generals cupped his fists and said, Xiang Yu is willing to go to war. Qin Yin smiled slightly. How many soldiers does General Xiang Yu want? Not too many. Xiang Yu looked up at Qin Yin and said, Your Highness, I only need 50,000 elite soldiers under Duke Lan to take down the Five Valleys City for your highness. Only 50,000? Qin Yin frowned slightly and said, Zhe Tian Palace does not joke. General, please be careful. Only 50,000. Xiang Yu repeated and said, if I cannot take back the Five Valleys City with 50,000 elite soldiers, I, Xiang Yu, am willing to accept military law. Qin Yin nodded. Approved. Immediately send the troops to war. After the meeting, Su Muyun and Su Yu entered the rear hall together to see her highness. Grandfather, you must have something to say, right? Qin Yin sat down and said with a smile. Su Muyun nodded and cupped his fists. Shao Yin, do you know the situation in Planet Earth province? After Xiangyu took over Planet Earth province, he left 3 trusted generals to guard Cold Star City and other important cities. He also recruited soldiers and bought horses on his own in the name of strengthening the empire, but he did not report to the Ministry of War at all. Qi Nin nodded and said, "Yes, special times call for special treatment. But in the long run, I'm afraid Tanglan's wings will become more and more plentiful. Now, Seven Seas City has another 100,000 new soldiers, and they are intensifying their training. In addition to the 30,000 soldiers they recruited in Planet Earth province, Tanglan's military power is getting stronger and stronger. Xiangyu goes to war and defeats Iha Nation. I'm afraid Five Valleys City will also fall into Tanglan's hands." Su Muyun said worriedly, "Even the officials we sent to take over Planet Earth province's military power and political power have been taken over. We have to be wary of Tanglan's heart." Qin Yin said softly, "I know, but we can only rely on Duke Lan now. If not, who would be willing to help the Qin family get rid of the traitors of Iha Nation?" Su Muyun took in a deep breath and said, "Most of the 30,000 corpses of the Fire Badger Valley Guard's army have been moved into the country protecting monument. Your Highness, if you have nothing to do in the afternoon, why not follow us out of the city to invite Feng Jixing back to Lanyan City?" Feng Jixing? He blames himself too much. If not for your Highness personally inviting him, I'm afraid he wouldn't be willing to return to Lanyan City. And let's head out now. But it was early summer, and butterflies danced outside Fire Badger Valley. Qin Yin was wearing a white royal dress and a dark blue cloak, the same color as the imperial military uniform. This time, she brought a total of 5,000 cavalrymen of Muyu City out of the city, in addition to the 500 guards of the Brave Dragon Battalion, so there was no room for error. In addition, there was an additional group of people in the crowd. This group of people was wearing white robes, with the badge of the Imperial Army on their shoulders. In the wilderness, Feng Jixing sat there in a dejected manner. His long hair was scattered and even his beard had grown out. The horse hooves slowly stopped. Qin Yin got off the horse and stood in front of Feng Jixing. She said softly, "General Feng, Qin?" "Qin Yin, Your Highness." Feng Jixing's body shook. He raised his head and looked at Qin Yin's beautiful face. He muttered, "Your Highness? Is it really Your Highness? If it isn't me, who else can it be?" Qin Yin smiled. She didn't mind that Feng Jixing was covered in mud. She held his arm and said, "General Feng, I am here to invite you back to Lanyan City." However, Feng Jixing retracted his hand as if he was electrocuted. He knelt on the ground and took a few steps back. His forehead knocked heavily on the ground several times in a row. In the blink of an eye, his forehead was covered in blood. He said with a trembling voice, "Sinner Feng Jixing can no longer return to Lanyan City. Why not?" Qin Yin asked sadly. Feng Jixing's eyes turned red. He said, "The 30,000 brothers of the Imperial Guards trusted me, Feng Jixing, and were willing to disarm themselves. However, they were massacred. It's all my fault. I can die 10,000 times. I am a sinner covered in blood. I don't have the face to return to Lanyan City. Your Highness, please grant me death. If I die under your Highness's sword, Feng Jixing can die in peace. I don't have to suffer anymore." "No, you can't die." Qin Yin looked at him and said, "If you die, who will avenge brother Yu? Who will avenge Lord Chu Huayin? Who will avenge Commander Qin Lei? You can't die." Feng Jixing knelt on the ground and buried his face in the soil. He wailed. At this moment, a group of people wearing the armor of the Imperial Guards walked out from the crowd. Their faces were full of grief. The leader was a bearded man. He slowly knelt on the ground and murmured, "General Feng, old Zhang has brought the brothers to see you." Feng Jixing trembled. He raised his head and saw Zhang Wei and the group of Imperial Guards. He couldn't help but cry, "Zhang Wei, it's Zhang Wei. You guys didn't die? You guys didn't die?" Although Jiang Wei was a rough man, he still knew how to be loyal. Tears flowed from his eyes as he knelt on the ground and said, "Have you forgotten General Feng? Before you left for Mount Tianming, Lord Lin Muyu asked you to leave 1,000 of us to defend the city. He was the one who saved the torch of the Imperial Guards. You that brat? Feng Jixing was inconsolable. He sat on the ground in a sorry state. Tears dripped onto his rotten armor as he murmured, I've let my brothers down, I've let you down, I've let old Chu down. Feng Jixing, I'm a sinner, an unforgivable sinner. Qin Yin looked at him and walked forward again. Her body trembled as she knelt in front of Feng Jixing. She held his arm and said, General Feng, Xiao Yin is now the monarch of the Qin Empire. Now is the time for you to atone for your sins. Follow me back to Lanyan City and lead the troops into battle. You'll become a general of the Qin Empire again. The more Iha Kingdom's traitors you kill, the more you can wash away the bloodstains on you. Are you willing to pledge your loyalty to me, Qin Yin, again? Feng Jixing trembled and slowly knelt down. Feng Jixing is willing to follow your highness for the rest of my life. I'll be loyal to the empire until death. Chapter 317. In Zetian Palace, Feng Jixing freshened up and put on the white robe Imperial Forest armor again. This was the new armor Qin Yin had prepared for him. The Qin Empire originally had 6 experts who enjoyed the title of White Robe Imperial Forest: Du Hai, Feng Jixing, Chu Chu, Qin Lei, Lei Hong, and Yao Yuan. Now, Du Hai was missing, Chu Chu, Qin Lei, and Lei Hong had died in battle, and Yao Yuan's whereabouts were unknown. In the vast Qin Empire, Feng Jixing was the only remaining white robe Imperial Forest. On his collar, behind the purple flower, there were 3 gold stars. This was the rank of a commander. Feng Jixing's heart skipped a beat. He felt as if thousands of arrows were piercing through his heart. Zhang Wei was promoted to the deputy commander of the Imperial Army. In addition, Feng Jixing had taken Xia Hosang away from the Longdan army camp. Therefore, both Zhang Wei and Xia Hosang followed behind Feng Jixing. It looked quite imposing. Congratulations, General Feng. Tang Lan cupped her fists and smiled. Feng Jixing nodded. Thank you, Duke Lan. However, behind Tang Lan, Tang Tian, Tang Lu, Tang Wei, and the other Tang clan generals all had looks of jealousy on their faces. They seemed to understand that Feng Jixing's return was a great provocation to the Seven Seas city's Tang sect's strength. After all, Feng Jixing was Qin Jin's old general and also one of the empire's 7 divine generals, a famous general of the present age. Feng Jixing submitting to Qin Yin and Su Muyun was definitely not a good thing. Qin Yin sat on the throne and said, Feng Jixing is loyal, brave, and unyielding. I am specially promoted to Jianghu General and Commander of the Imperial Army. I order you to rebuild the Imperial Army of Lanyan City. In addition, your first mission is to lead 50,000 troops around the dragon-seeking forest and go straight to Tianshu province. Bring Yuqi Tian's head to me. General Feng, can you do that? Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, Rest assured, Your Highness. Xiang Yu had once been a sinful general under Qin Jin's edict, so there were people who stopped him from being promoted. However, Feng Jixing was originally one of the imperial commanders, so there was nothing wrong with him being promoted to second-rank state general. At the side, Su Muyun smiled and said, General Feng, the 50,000 elite troops have been prepared for you. You can take a rest tonight. Tomorrow, we will set off for Dubhe province. Yes, Duke Yun. Feng Jixing was very respectful. He also knew that the military power of the empire was not in the hands of Qin Yin, but in the hands of Su Muyun and Tang Lan, the 2 guardian Grand Dukes. He had to be polite to these 2 people. That night, in the Forbidden Army's main camp, Zhang Wei and Xia Hosang were preparing their warhorses, weapons, and armor. They were all beaming with joy, but Feng Jixing was carrying a wine jar. He mounted his horse and said, I'm going out for a walk. You guys stay here and wait for my orders. Zhang Wei hurriedly said, Commander, let me bring a team of guards with me. The empire is in turmoil, and it's not safe anywhere now. Feng Jixing's laughter came in the wind. Don't worry. Who in Lanyan City has the ability to kill me now? Zhang Wei was speechless. Just as Feng Jixing said, Xiang Yu had set off for the war. There was no one in Lanyan City who could be a match for Feng Jixing. The starlight scattered on the ground. Feng Jixing rode his horse straight into the imperial mausoleum. In the distance, the nation-guarding monument glowed brightly under the starlight. Feng Jixing sat beside the nation-guarding monument and looked up at the names of Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, and Qin Lei. He drank a mouthful of strong liquor and felt that the liquor burned his throat. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. As he laughed, tears flowed down his cheeks. He quietly leaned against the nation-guarding monument. As the moonlight fell on his face, Feng Jixing choked with sobs and said, You once asked me if I was afraid. I said I wasn't. Now I'm afraid. Brother Feng knows how you feel. The 4 heroes of Lan Yan disappeared in the blink of an eye. I'm the only one left. I'm so scared. How can I continue on my path in the future? Old Chu, Ale, how are you guys doing in that world? The nation-guarding monument was cold. Feng Jixing raised his head and took another sip of strong liquor. He sobbed like a child and said, If only we could go back to the days when we were drinking in the pavilion of raindrops, how good would that be? He looked up at the jungle in the distance. His eyes flashed with despair. He knew that he could never go back. After a long time, Feng Jixing stood up and poured the remaining liquor in the jar under the nation-guarding monument. With a determined look in his eyes, he said, Brothers, wait for me. On the day Feng Jixing unifies the territory of the empire, I'll accompany you to drink in the netherworld. He turned over and mounted the horse, galloping away. The next day, Feng Jixing led the 50,000 troops of Muyu City on an expedition to the east and went straight to Tianshu province. At this time, Jianghu was leading the troops to attack Wugu City. This was undoubtedly another head-on blow for Iha country. Once they lost the protection of Tianshu province, Wugu City would become a lonely city and lose all reliance and support. Empire Calendar Year 7731, June 27th, 10 miles north of Wugu City, Xiangyu's army camp. Buckets of blood-red berries were transported into the camp. The berries emitted a strange fragrance, but all the soldiers in charge of escorting them had cold eyes and did not look at the berries at all. General is here. A Chiliarch dismounted and saluted respectfully. Xiangyu carried the bloodbath spear and rode his horse into the crowd. He asked, Is everything ready? Yes, General. A military officer in a purple robe cupped his fists and said, Almost all the blood fruits in Songnan province have been picked by us. A total of 182 buckets of berries have been gathered. How toxic is it? Xiangyu asked. The military officer smiled. 1,000-year-old elephant accidentally eats a blood fruit. It's enough to kill it. In these wooden buckets, there are at least hundreds of blood fruits in each bucket. General should be able to guess the toxicity of these nearly 200 buckets of blood fruits. Good, Xiangyu smiled slightly and said, Pass down my order to the 3 armies. From today onwards, our drinking water can only be fetched from the dragon-seeking forest. We can no longer use water from the rice river. As soon as it gets dark, immediately dump all the berries into the rice river. The rice river is the river of life for Wugu City. As long as the rice river is poisonous, Wugu City will be defeated and destroyed. One of the captains of Seven Seas City was astonished, and he said, General, these blood fruits won't just kill the traders of the Iha nation, they'll kill the commoners of Five Valleys City as well. There are 2,400,000 people in Five Valleys City. So what? Xiangyu said lightly, These people were originally citizens of the empire, but they pledged allegiance to the Iha nation. Death cannot wipe out their crimes. Pass down my order, there must be no mistakes. If there is any crime, Xiangyu will bear it alone. That night, 182 buckets of acute pain berries flowed down and melted into the rice river. The rice river surrounded Wugu City and provided all the city's daily water supply. The next day, hundreds of thousands of people died in Wugu City. It was chaos. Both sides of the city road were filled with the moans and wails of the poisoned. It was unbearable to hear. A row of cavalry slowly passed. Ding Shi was wearing a general's cloak, his hand on the hilt of his sword. His eyes swept across both sides and said lightly, It is confirmed that the water source has been poisoned, is it? Yes, General. The guard on the side said, the entire rice river has been infected with poison. All the dead fish on the river surface have floated up as far as the eye can see. Bastard! Ding Shi clenched his fist and said, pass down my order, no more drinking water from the rice river. Dig underground water sources to drink. But General, the rice river is deep. The poison must have already entered the underground water. Even if we drink well water, we will still be in danger of poisoning. This, Ding Shi frowned and said, perhaps we should consider withdrawing our troops. Immediately follow me to see the commander. The governor's manor in Five Valley City had now become Qin Yi's governor's manor. Ding Shi entered with his sword in hand. When he entered the hall, he saw Ji Yao and LV Zhao from afar. Qin Yi was leaning against a chair with his eyes closed, his face full of fatigue. It seemed that after the northern expedition, which had almost destroyed half of the empire, Qin Yi had not enjoyed the pleasure of becoming a king. Is it General Ding Shi? Qin Yi asked lightly. Yes, General. Ding Shi cupped his fists and said, Commander, Xiangyu poisoned the rice river. Moreover, it's a blood fruit poison. Hundreds of thousands of people have died today. This general suggests that we immediately abandon Five Valleys City and lead the army out of the city. Take the people of Five Valleys City and head south to Hundred Ridge City. LV Zhao's face turned cold. Ding Shi, are you advising the commander to abandon the 8 northern provinces of Iha country? This general does not dare. Qin Yi slowly opened his eyes and said, pass down my order. Everyone starts drinking well water. Do not drink rice river water. Hold on for another 3 days. If Xiangyu still poisons, then withdraw. Also, what about Long Qianlin? LV Zhao said disdainfully, that cowardly rat has already led his troops to the sword pavilion. He doesn't even dare to step into Wugu City's territory. He has been scared out of his wits by the imperial dogs. Qin Yi said lightly, Long Qianlin is not that kind of person. All right, all of you are dismissed. Prepare for the withdrawal. In the following days, a large number of people in Wugu City died. On the 4th of July, Wugu City was breached. When Xiangyu and the imperial army entered Wugu City, they found that it was already a dead city. Excluding the hundreds of thousands who escaped from the city, the remaining 8 million people were all poisoned to death. The Iha country's army that could not retreat in time was ambushed by Xiangyu's army. 30,000 people were killed and 40,000 were captured. On the 7th of July, Xiangyu led 30,000 troops to pursue Qin Yi. They were ambushed by Long Qianlin's sword pavilion and lost more than 10,000 men. He then decided to withdraw. On the 15th of July, year 7731 of the empire's calendar, Feng Jixing defeated the Heaven's Corps and captured 40,000 men. He also captured Yuqi Tian and Yuqi Yen, recovering Divine Shadow City and Heaven's Core Province. At this point, the neighboring Earth Star Province, Songnan Province, and Heaven's Core Province were all recovered and incorporated into the Empire's territory. Apart from a small portion of the Iha country's troops that remained in Tongtian Province and Lingdong Province, the rest of them retreated to Lingnan. At this point, the empire was divided into two. On the 21st of September, year 7731 of the empire's calendar, Qin Yi was crowned empress. She was given the title Empress, and the empire's name was still Qin. Chapter 318. It was September 21st, the day of the empress's coronation. On this day, there was only laughter and joy in Lanyan City. Qin Yin's proclamation as the empress was tantamount to announcing the true reconstruction of the empire. The people of Lanyan City had suffered deeply from the massacre of the Iha kingdom. This kind of pain penetrated deep into their bones and was unforgettable. Compared to the hypocrisy of the Iha kingdom, the people loved this generous and benevolent empress even more. The square of Zetian was crowded with countless commoners who had come to watch the empress's coronation. The crowd crowded from Zetian Palace Hall all the way to Tongtian Street. It was extremely lively. Accompanied by the ringing of the bell, the officials divided into two groups and stood outside the main hall. The square of the main hall was filled with the newly organized Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards in bright armor. Feng Jixing and Jianghu, the two famous generals who had just been promoted to first-rank generals, stood guard outside the main hall. "Your Highness, please," Su Muyun shouted with a smile on his face. Surrounded by the officials, Qin Yin slowly walked out of the main hall. Her beautiful face was expressionless as she stood there gracefully and calmly looked at everyone in the main hall. Her hair was coiled up high and was inlaid with the Empress's golden swan neck crown. It was elegant and dignified. Under the velvet shawl, she wore an exquisite blue robe that was the same color as the uniform of the Empire's soldiers. Her waist was adorned with gold and silver tassels, and her perky twin peaks protruded from the front of her robe. On the front of her robe, there was a gold-bordered purple flower, which was the Empire's emblem. "Xiaoxi, present the pearl of imperial power." At her command, Tang Xiaoxi, who was dressed in a beautiful red dress, held a tray in her hand and respectfully came in front of Qin Yin. She looked up with a smile and said, "Xiao Yin, come." Qin Yin nodded with a smile and reached out to hold the golden scepter. This was the treasure that represented the royal power and was once held by Qin Jin. Holding the scepter in one hand and the golden and blue pearl in the other, Qin Yin's snow-white face carried a faint smile as she turned to look at the officials in the main hall and the people of the empire in the distance. For a time, the whole Lanyan city seemed to be boiling at this moment. "Xiaoxi, come with me." Qin Yin turned to look at her best friend. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and reached out to hold Qin Yin's little hand. The two of them walked step by step towards the throne. Below the throne, an attendant was holding a golden laurel crown. This was a custom-made laurel crown for the Empress. "Grandfather," Qin Yin said softly. Su Muyun hurriedly went forward and knelt on one knee. Then he lifted up the laurel crown and took off Qin Yin's original crown, putting this supreme laurel crown on her. In an instant, all the officials knelt down and shouted, "Long live Her Highness the Empress." "You may rise." Qin Yin gently raised her hand. After all the officials stood up, she said, "All of you have helped Qin Yin recapture Lanyan City and even recovered Sangnan Province, Tianshu Province, and Earth Star Province. 6 of the 8 provinces in Lingbei have returned to the Empire's territory. On behalf of the family, Qin Yin thanks all of you for your hard work and contributions." She bowed and made a ladylike bow. Immediately, all the officials were overwhelmed by the favor and returned the bow. Qin Yin blinked and continued according to the agreed procedure. Duke Yun of Yunzhong Province, Su Muyun, has contributed greatly to the Empire of Great Qin. He is specially conferred the title of Duke Yun, which can be passed down from generation to generation. Everyone shouted, "Congratulations, Duke Yun! Congratulations, Duke Yun!" Su Muyun knelt respectfully in front of Qin Yin and said, "Your old servant thanks your highness." Qin Yin continued, "Duke Lan of Qihai Province, Tang Lan, has contributed greatly to the Empire of Great Qin. He is specially conferred the title of Duke of Qihai, which can be passed down from generation to generation. In addition, Tang Jin's second son, Tang Lu, has been conferred the title of Marquis of Lingbei. Tang Ju's eldest son, Tang Tian, has been conferred the title of Marquis of Lingxi. Tang Jin's daughter, Tang Wei, has been conferred the title of Princess Wei." Everyone from the Tang family knelt down to express their gratitude. Qin Yin smiled and nodded for everyone to rise. Beside her, Tang Xiaoxi was the closest to her. She blinked and said, "2 marquises and 1 princess. Grandfather wants you to confer these titles?" Qin Yin's voice was very soft. "The Tang family has contributed greatly to the empire's recovery. This is what they deserve." Tang Xiaoxi laughed bitterly. "Even though Tang Lu, Tang Tian, and Tang Wei are my brother and sister, they're all mediocre people. What ability do they possess to deserve such a title?" Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. "Xiaoxi, you're the best." "Yes." Tang Xiaoxi looked at her faintly and said, "Xiao Yin, the empire has just been stabilized. So many people have died, and so many fields have become barren. I'm afraid we'll need a few years to recuperate before we can raise the issue of war again. Also, according to Duke Yun and grandfather, I, as the princess of Qihai City, will also be going to Demon Subduing Pass. When are you leaving? Qin Yin seemed lost. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and held her hand, saying, I'll leave tomorrow, but don't worry, little Yin. As long as you need me, I can come back to Lanyan City to see you at any time. Also, Duke Yun seems to be worried about the demon clan. If I don't personally guard the Demon Subduing Pass, he's worried that the demon clan will re-enter the central region. Yes, grandfather is too paranoid. Yes. Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said, It's just that I can't stay in Lanyan City to accompany you every day. It'll be very boring for you to be the empress. If only you was here. Qin Yin's eyes turned red, and she wanted to say something but stopped. That night, Zetian Palace held a banquet to entertain the officials. Feng Jixing, Zhang Wei, and Wei Qiu sat together, chatting casually. Meanwhile, Xiangyu was even more glorious. The rank of commander-in-chief on his shoulder glowed with a golden radiance, complementing the proud look on his face. Congratulations to young Lord Tang Lu for being promoted to the Marquis of North Ridge. Xiangyu cupped his fists and said to Tang Lu with a smile. Tang Lu was young and successful, so he didn't put anyone in his eyes. The corner of his mouth rose. What are you talking about? I can't compare to General Xiangyu. My title of North Ridge Marquis is just an empty title. How can I compare to General Xiangyu? A rice river was turned into a river of dead people by General, and Five Valley City, one of the 7 famous cities of the empire, was turned into a dead city by General. In this world, I'm afraid no one can compare to you. Xiangyu was stunned, and his face turned ashen. A general's success is built on the bones of tens of thousands. This is the way of the ancient times. Marquis, why do you have to ridicule me like this? Ridicule? Tang Lu couldn't help but laugh. He patted Xiangyu's shoulder and moved closer to him. Xiangyu, you're just a stray dog. If grandfather hadn't taken you in, would you have had the chance to accomplish anything? But you're a smart person. I think you should know what to do. Xiangyu's face turned pale. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, Marcus' lesson is right. Xiangyu will forever remember Duke Lan's kindness of giving me a new lease of life. If I forget, I'll definitely be stabbed by a sword. Good, that's good. Tang Lu smiled and passed by Xiangyu in a drunken manner. He went to greet Tang Tian, who wasn't far away. One was North Ridge Marquis, and the other was West Ridge Marquis. Tang Lu and Tang Tian could be considered to have a sufficient status in the empire. In the side hall of the banquet, Qin Yin sat beside Su Muyun in silence. Xiao Yin, what's going on? Su Muyun asked with a smile. Qin Yin's gaze stopped on the fruit platter on the table. She mumbled, Grandfather, I want to rebuild the military system and turn the Longdan army camp into a regular army. I want to build an army of 30,000 men and promote Wei Chou to a third-rank country protector general. What does grandfather think? Expand the Longdan army camp? Su Muyun frowned. He patted Qin Yin's shoulder and said with a smile, Let's put this matter aside for the time being. Wei Chou is still young. If you want to put him in an important position, you can let Wei Chou come to the Iron Blade Army to be a captaincy. I believe he's competent enough. Why? Qin Yin clenched her fist and bit her red lips. Why don't I, the Empress, have the authority to build an army? Su Muyun smiled faintly. Silly child, what nonsense are you thinking about? You are indeed the Empress, but grandfather will help you with the matters of the army. Your Aunt Lien will also help you. You don't have to worry. Moreover, you're not young anymore. Grandfather doesn't have to worry about other things, but your marriage. Qin Yin remained silent. Su Muyun continued. Qin Yen, that brat, is the son of Prince Jining. After Prince Jining and His Majesty were killed at the Fairy Lake, many of Prince Jining's former subordinates had contact with Qin Yen. I think his character is not bad. Little Yin, if you don't mind, in another 2 years, when Qin Yen comes of age, grandfather will arrange your marriage. How about that? Qin Yin clenched her fists so hard that her nails were about to sink into her flesh. Tears swirled in her eyes. She shook her head lightly and said, There's no need. Qin Yin has already grown up. I will be with the person I love. Don't mention this matter again. Otherwise, grandfather, you know my temper. Su Muyun was stunned. I know you're stubborn. If you don't want to, then forget it. Xiao Yin Tanglon is now the empress. The military power under her control is getting stronger and stronger. Haven't you thought about anything? That's between the two of you. I don't want to interfere. Qin Yin stood up and said, I'm going to look for Xiao Shi. I won't accompany you. Looking at Qin Yin's lonely back, Su Muyun let out a long sigh. At the side, Su Yu drank a cup of grape wine and said indifferently, Father, Xiao Yin is not your puppet monarch. What you're doing is too much. Su Muyun turned to look at his daughter. In the cold night, his gaze was like a sword. 800 miles away, compared to this banquet filled with fine wine and delicacies, the dragon-seeking forest seemed much colder. It was already autumn, and the nights were already very cold. Yet at this moment, a heavy downpour fell from the sky. Boom! The mountain suddenly collapsed, and a large section fell off. It also washed out the purple crystals that were buried under the soil and rocks. The rain washed the purple crystals very clean. After the heavy rain stopped, the clouds parted and the moon shone brightly. The light from the stars in the sky shone on the crystal. Suddenly, the eyelids of the person in the crystal seemed to move. Do your best. The 7 luminaries demon emperor called again and again. Lin Ruoji, it's time to wake up. Since you've already absorbed the light from the stars, your soul should be awake. How long do you want to sleep for? I'm a god emperor, but I've been calling you like a midwife for a few months. How can I endure this? All of a sudden, the soul that had been asleep for a long time woke up. His Yi-Hai was in a state of chaos. Wisps of white light condensed into Lin Muyu's body. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at the chaos around him. He could not help but ask, Where am I? Chapter 319. Above his head was the boundless vault of heaven, and beneath his feet were the waves of 10,000 miles. It seemed like he did not need to ask to know where he was. Lin Muyu's spiritual sense was awakened in his own Yi-Hai, but his body was not truly awake. Demon Emperor, how long have I been unconscious? He stood majestically above his Yi-Hai and asked. The waves surged and the seawater slowly parted. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor appeared proudly. His crimson robe and handsome appearance complemented each other, which was enough to prove that the recovery of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's godhead was close to a complete state. About 5 months. The Demon Emperor said lightly, But you're not unconscious. You've been dead for more than 5 months. If I hadn't used my divine power to restrain your 3 souls and 7 spirits, I'm afraid your soul would have been scattered and you would have become a real corpse by now. 5 months? Lin Muyu was stunned. He bowed to the Demon Emperor and said, Thank you, Demon Emperor. I know that with your current cultivation, you can completely leave my body and ascend to the heaven realm. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's expression was calm as he said lightly, Lin Muyu, you traveled through time and space to save me, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, in the 17th level of purgatory. If I don't repay you for saving my life, I won't be able to rest easy for the next 10,000 years, even 100 million years. So this time I must save your little life. But how? Lin Muyu laughed bitterly. If I remember correctly, my heart has already been crushed by Luo Lan. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor couldn't help but laugh. The heart isn't an irreversible vital point. If your head was chopped off, I would indeed be powerless. But don't forget, your left arm was reconstructed from one of the 9 great sacred weapons, the Profound Spirit Ruler. The Profound Spirit Ruler is born with the ability to heal itself. As long as we gather enough sunlight, rain, and dew, and absorb the spiritual energy of the earth, we can reconstruct your heart. Really? Lin Muyu was overjoyed. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor nodded and smiled. But don't celebrate too early. After all, it's rebuilding the heart. Besides, we're trapped in the Acatosaurus's dragon crystal. We can only slowly gather this spiritual energy. This process will take a long time. How long? The longest is a few hundred years, the shortest is 3 to 5 years. The 7 luminaries demon emperor chuckled and placed his hands behind his back. But don't worry, I have the body of a god emperor. Time is not a problem for me at all because I am immortal. Not to mention a few hundred years, I can even accompany you for tens of thousands of years. But I can't afford it. Lin Muyu looked helpless. What's the situation outside? Has the Qin Empire been destroyed? Has the Iha kingdom succeeded? The 7 luminaries demon emperor narrowed his eyes. I'm trapped in this dragon crystal just like you. What you don't know, I don't know either. How am I supposed to answer your questions? Now, what do we do? Lin Muyu was burning with anxiety. I must be reborn soon. Maybe Xiao Yin is fine. As long as she's not dead, she must need me now. Reborn soon? The 7 luminaries demon emperor glared at her. Do you think you can be reborn just because you say so? Like in games, you can revive on the spot with a gold coin? Be honest and do it step by step. The first step is to open your eyes and use your body to feel the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. Use your eyes to accept the spiritual energy of the sun, moon, and stars. The only thing you have to do is to open your eyes. I'll help you with the rest. Yes. Lin Muyu slowly sank her spiritual sense into her body and felt the broken body. At the same time, she seemed to be able to feel Acatosaurus's energy. Yes, Acatosaurus used the dragon's life force to protect her body from damage before it died. It was loyal. For the first time, Lin Muyu felt that it was so difficult to open her eyes. Because this body was dead, she couldn't control it at all. If she wanted to open her eyes, she had to make her soul and body fit together. But it wasn't easy. After all, her soul had been away from her body for 5 months. After dozens of minutes, she sighed. She still couldn't open her eyes. Take it slow. The 7 luminaries demon emperor continued to plant spiritual roots in the sea. These spiritual roots could only be condensed by an emperor god. Only an emperor god could rely on this special method to cultivate. The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled as he planted the spiritual roots. Lin Muyu, if you recover, what do you want to do the most? Lin Muyu was startled. She sank her spiritual sense into her Ihai and said, if the empire has been destroyed by Iha country, I will do everything possible to rebuild the empire. If the empire hasn't been destroyed, I will help Xiao Yin to destroy Iha country. Luo Lan killed Grandpa Lei Hong. I must avenge this. You, a heavenly king, want to challenge an ultimate god? The 7 luminaries demon emperor couldn't help but laugh. Why not? I will take my time to cultivate, Lin Muyu said lightly. The 7 luminaries demon emperor said, your body is still too weak. You don't have the physique to fully use the 7 luminaries' profound energy. Otherwise, if you and Luo Lan had the same level of divine power, a 7 luminaries star transformation would be enough to doom him. Oh right, I forgot. Your stupid body can't even contain the power of the stars, let alone cultivate the 7 luminaries star transformation. Demon Emperor, is the 7 luminaries star transformation really that strong? Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed. Are you kidding me? The 7 luminaries is the essence of the 7 luminaries' profound energy. It is also this emperor's proudest self-created martial art. Then do I have the chance to master the 7 luminaries' star transformation? That depends on you. When you open your eyes and look up at the stars, maybe your body will be able to absorb a little of the power of the stars. Maybe everything is unknown. Demon Emperor, when are you going to ascend? Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was startled. He stood in the spiritual field in his Ihai and looked up at the sky. He sighed and said, actually, I won't hide it from you. My divine spark is already complete and I can ascend at any time. However, I will definitely do what I promised you. After your body is reconstructed, I will ascend. You will fight in your empire's mainland and I will fight in my celestial realm Star Sea. We don't owe each other anything. Lin Muyu nodded heavily. Thank you. In the night, Faint fluorescent light danced around the purple crystal. The figure inside the crystal was slightly blurry, but one could already faintly see that the figure was surrounded by beams of profound light, like a shooting star in the dark night. After a whole month, finally, under Lin Muyu's perseverance, there was a slight movement in her body. Her eyelids trembled slightly and she suddenly opened her eyes under the starry sky. He was extremely excited to have regained his light. His body happened to be lying on his back facing the starry sky. The feeling of the beams of starlight sprinkling on his body was indescribably comfortable. Although his body was trapped by the dragon crystal and could not move, he could already feel the power flowing through his meridians. However, the speed of the flow was very slow because the blood vessels in his body had not started to flow yet. His heart was broken. Without the beating of his heart, how could his blood flow? Not bad. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed in the sea. The first step has been completed. Feel the power of the stars. The stars in the universe contain power that is stronger than heaven and earth. This can quickly heal your body. Also, don't forget the blessing of wind, frost, rain and dew. Lin Muyu opened her eyes wide and looked at the sky. At the same time, streams of cool dew seeped down from the dragon crystal and sprinkled on her body that had been trapped for a long time. It was as if rain and dew were nourishing a barren field. Very soon, Lin Muyu felt a sensation on her skin. She had already recovered part of her 5 senses. A thin wind passed through the holes in the dragon crystal and slowly moistened her body. At the same time, along with the wind and dew, the spiritual power of heaven and earth also slowly watered Lin Muyu's body that had been dead for a long time. Just as the 7 luminaries demon emperor had said, this process was very slow. At this moment, there was a purring sound. It was as if a golden lock in her mind had been opened. Immediately after, golden words slowly entered her mind. In an instant, Lin Muyu's spiritual sense was about to die from exhaustion. She quickly absorbed the power of these words, and her mind instantly felt as if it was about to crash. At this moment, the long-lost Lulu appeared. Her transparent body flew out of Lin Muyu's mind with a whoosh and floated in the dragon crystal. She quickly hugged Lin Muyu's neck and intimately rubbed her face against his neck. She smiled and said, "Big brother didn't die. This is great. Big brother didn't die. This is really great." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Her spiritual sense said, "Lulu, you're still here?" "That's right." Lulu flapped her wings and said with a smile, "Lulu has always been here. It's just that Big Brother couldn't sense Lulu when he was asleep. Congratulations, Big Brother. You've unlocked the 12 styles of the Dragon Taming Spear Technique." The Dragon Taming Spear Technique. Lin Muyu smiled and remembered. This Dragon Taming Spear Technique was a skill he was proud of in the game Conquer. However, the unlocking process now was the detailed explanation of the 12 styles of the Dragon Taming Spear Technique appearing in his mind. Those golden words were all imprinted in his mind. It wasn't really unlocking it, but for him to learn and comprehend it. Once again, Lin Muyu was stunned by this mysterious power. The Dragon Taming Spear Technique had a total of 12 styles. They were Seeking the Way form, Hongchuan form, Dashing form, Linyuan form, Mountain Shaker form, Thunderclap form, Scales Caressing form, Spear Lock form, Break form, Tail Swing form, No Attack form, and Dragon Capture form. Each style was stronger than the previous. In the game, it was just a skill that could be easily learned. However, in this world, each style had more than 1,000 words of detailed explanation, so it wasn't that easy to learn. However, in this continent of Shattered Cauldron realm, most generals used long weapons such as halberds, spears, and knives to charge and break through enemy lines. As long as Lin Muyu learned the Dragon Taming Spear Technique, he would definitely be unparalleled in the world. In the depths of Yi, it seemed like the 7 luminaries demon emperor had also sensed the abnormal power invading Lin Muyu's mind. Somewhat speechless, he said, "What the hell is this? Do you have secret martial arts manuals in your mind?" "I don't know either." Lin Muyu had nothing to hide from the 7 luminaries demon emperor. She said, "Ever since I transmigrated to this world, these skills have been unlocked one by one. As for why, I don't know. Is that so? Let me take a look. The godhead of the 7 luminaries demon emperor suddenly became active and seeped into Lin Muyu's mind. In a short moment, it returned to Ihai. With a cold expression, it said, "Kid, you're injured." I'm injured? Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a chill. Yes. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's gaze was solemn. I found a piece of metal in your mind. Piece of metal? Lin Muyu was silent for a moment. Her eyes shone brightly. I finally understand why I can comprehend skills one by one. It's because someone implanted a chip in my body. It's been like this since the beginning. Isn't that right, Lulu? Lulu pursed her small lips. Oh no. I'm just a string of data. But speaking of which, Lulu's origin seems to be the chip in brother's mind. That explains it, Lin Muyu thought for a moment and decided not to think about it anymore. It was just who implanted the chip in her mind. But right now, this chip was definitely helping her. Only by cultivating properly and changing her fate would she be able to find the truth. Chapter 320. Spring passed and winter came. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. In the first month of the 7734 year of the empire, Tang Lan and Su Muyun led 400,000 troops to cross the mountains and attack Lingkong province. They were defeated by Long Qianlin, one of the 7 marshals of Lingnan, using a delaying tactic. A heavy snowstorm caused the imperial army to lose all supplies and suffer a large-scale attack from the Iha kingdom. They lost more than 200,000 men. Lingdong province and Tongtian province were seized by the Iha kingdom. Corpses littered the Qinling mountains for thousands of miles. This was the empire's first crushing defeat since its reconstruction. Even Jianghu and the other generals were injured. In the 3rd month, the army returned to the imperial capital. In the Zetian Hall, Qin Yin's beautiful face had lost some of its tenderness after the baptism of wind and frost, but it now had a mature charm. She pressed her hand on the hilt of the Zine sword and stood majestically in front of the throne. She looked coldly at the people in the hall and said, "Grandfather, Your Highness the 7 Seas King, give me a reason why we lost this time." Tang Lan and Su Muyun knelt before the palace in silence. Feng Jixing stood at the side with his hand on the hilt of his sword. He suddenly walked out and cupped his fists. "Your Highness, we didn't lose this battle. Our every move was under the enemy's control. Most of our supplies were intercepted and burned. That's why the 400,000 troops lost their supplies on the Qinling Mountains. Moreover, they were delayed for too long and didn't have enough clothes. The heavy snowstorm completely lost the empire's combat power." "What's going on?" Qin Yin asked. Feng Jixing said, "In these 3 years, Lingnan has once again built close to 100 new House of Chivalry in the northern mountain ridge. We have tried many times to encircle and annihilate them but to no avail. They are hidden deep in the mountains and are too cunning. Furthermore, those chivalrous rangers have been constantly reporting our military intelligence to the Iha kingdom. This is also the biggest reason for our defeat." Qin Yin heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Xiangyu, send troops to guard the borders of Tianshu province and Sangnan province. Don't let the Iha kingdom attack again. Commander Feng, you're in charge of destroying the House of Chivalry. I don't want the House of Chivalry to exist within the borders of the empire within half a year." "Your Highness, what, is there a problem?" Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, "Does Your Highness know of the 7 Saint Realm experts of the Iha country? Han Jun, Lu Zhan, Fan Yun, Duan Mufang, Xiahou Zhu, Yan Li, and Bu Hai are all disciples of Luo Lan. Now, 3 of them have entered the northern mountain ridge. They are hiding in the House of Chivalry in the forest. This is the reason why we have failed to conquer the House of Chivalry. Are we just going to let them continue like this?" Qin Yin's eyes were filled with determination. She said, "Wei Chou, bring the Longdan army camp to assist General Feng. You must uproot the House of Chivalry in Lingbei province and Sangnan province." "Yes, Your Highness." Wei Chou cupped his fists and said. Beside him, Qin Yan, Luo Yu, and Feng Shi also looked eager. The Longdan army camp had not made a move for a long time. This was an opportunity. As for killing a Saint Realm expert, it was not too difficult. After all, Lin Muyu had left behind 100,000 white diamond arrows, which were the trump card of the Longdan army camp. Your Highness. Su Muyun cupped his fists and said with a cold expression, in the Battle of Lingkong Province, the Empire lost many soldiers and generals. It is all my fault. I ask for punishment, and I am willing to strip the title of King of Yunzhong. It is rare for grandfather to be so righteous. Qin Yin smiled and said, approved. Men, strip Su Muyun of his title of King of Yunzhong and restore his title of Duke of Muyun to show that there is a clear distinction between punishment and reward. Grandfather, you don't have to take it to heart. Victory and defeat are common in war. We just have to win it back next time. We have the Seven Seas Province, Cloud Province, Lingbei Province, Songnan Province, and Tianshu Province, a total of 5 rich and fertile lands. Iha country will not be able to hold on for long. Yes, your Highness is wise. Su Muyun knelt on the ground again. At the side, Tang Lan frowned and finally knelt down slowly. He said, Your Highness, since Duke Yun has resigned from his title of king, Tang Lan should also resign from his title of duke and restore his title of Duke Lan. Approved. Qin Yin was very happy. In the afternoon, 5,000 imperial guards left the city under the leadership of Feng Jixing, followed by 1,000 elites from the Longdan army camp. Due to Tang Lan and Su Muyun's repeated obstructions, the Longdan army camp was unable to expand to more than 1,000 men. Fortunately, Wei Chou led the troops well. These 1,000 men were all elites, skilled in archery and horsemanship. Their combat strength was far superior to any army of the same size within the empire. Commander Wei Chou. Feng Jixing held the reins and said, Which mountain do you think we should attack first? Dragon Rocky Mountain. Wei Chou's expression was not very good. He said, Those bastards from the Hall of Chivalry reoccupied Dragon Rocky Mountain a year ago. This is a disgrace to our Longdan army camp. I have long wanted to attack Dragon Rocky Mountain. All right then, the corner of Feng Jixing's mouth rose. He said, However, Dragon Rocky Mountain is currently guarded by the headquarters of the Hall of Chivalry in Lanyan City. It is said that there is a Saint Realm expert living on the mountain called Buhai. Half a year ago, when Jianghu went to attack Dragon Rocky Mountain, he was rebuffed and almost lost his life there. Even Jianghu was not a match for Buhai. Wei Chou couldn't help but be speechless. That's not it. Feng Jixing's eyes turned cold. He said, Jianghu had already stepped into the Saint Realm a year ago. In terms of strength, he should be on par with Buhai. It was just that he received a secret order from Duke Lan to withdraw his troops and return to Lanyan City. Humph. Wei Chou said coldly, presumably, Tang Lan doesn't want Buhai to die. That's not necessarily true. Feng Jixing placed his hand on the hilt of his saber. With a warm spring breeze on his face, he said, I guess Tang Lan is worried that Jianghu, a valiant general, will be killed, so he is waiting for other imperial troops to attack Dragon Rocky Mountain. You should also understand that among all the major legions in the empire, only the imperial guards and the Longdan army camp are directly under the command of the empress. Wei Chou smiled meaningfully. Unfortunately, the Longdan army camp is limited to less than 1,000 people, and the imperial guards are limited to less than 20,000 people. Otherwise, don't think so much. Feng Jixing tightened the belt of his cloak and said, Let's take one step at a time. As long as we are here, no one will dare to touch Her Highness. That is enough. Wei Chou's eyes flickered with light as he muttered, It's a pity. Commander is no longer around. Otherwise, he would also be someone who could make decisions. At the very least, he would not let Her Highness suffer so much humiliation. Feng Jixing raised his head to look at the clear sky and said unhurriedly, That fellow Yu is indeed a rare talent for a general, but it's a pity. Let's not talk about it anymore. Tonight, we will station our troops at the foot of Dragon Rocky Mountain and attack it tomorrow. In Lanyan City, in the spiritual medicine department, birds were chirping and flowers were fragrant. Butterflies were fluttering in the air. Chu Yao slowly opened one of her hands and slowly extracted the essence of the herbs. Her beautiful eyes were very calm. Beside her, the pear blossom sword was swaying slowly in the air as if accompanying its mistress. Great Deacon, you are still refining the medicine yourself. An old man dressed in a deacon's attire laughed. Yes. Chu Yao nodded lightly and said, if I let myself calm down, I really don't know what to do. So, when I have nothing to do, I will refine more medicine. Deacon Li, is there anything I can help you with? Deacon Li cupped his hands and said, the Divine Temple needs a few bottles of anti-aging medicine. However, this anti-aging medicine is a level 8 formula. We old fellows are helpless, so we can only trouble Great Deacon to personally refine the medicine. I see. Chu Yao blinked and asked, is the Divine Temple's Great Deacon Guyang sick again? Yes. Deacon Li said respectfully, after Great Deacon Guyang regained control of the Divine Temple, his health has not improved. You also know that Great Deacon Guyang has not stepped into the sanctuary realm, so time is taking away his life. He is already more than 90 years old, so I'm afraid he will not be able to reach the sanctuary realm in his lifetime. He can only rely on anti-aging medicine to maintain his life force. I understand. Chu Yao pursed her red lips and said, the level 8 formula needs some time to be refined. Come back to collect it at dusk. Deacon Li looked to the side and saw a black pearl hanging on the bracket of Chu Yao's desk, swaying gently. This was what Qin Yin got from Lin Muyu and passed to Chu Yao. Great Deacon, this pearl? Who are the people carved on it? He suddenly asked. Chu Yao was stunned. Her graceful body stood there for a long time. After a long silence, she murmured, They are the people I yearn for day and night. They are the people I only see in my dreams. Deacon Li was taken aback. He cupped his fists respectfully and bowed to Ling Longzhu. Lord Chu Huaying and Lord Lin Muyu's spirits in heaven will definitely bless the empire's prosperity. Great Deacon, please don't be too sad. Oh right, about the marriage proposal from Mark Lingbei a few days ago, Chu Yao said indifferently, don't bother me with such matters. I will not marry anyone. The Divine Temple, the temple in the hearts of the empire's warriors, had been rebuilt. However, the black ashes on the walls had not been completely cleaned up. It was as if to remind the world of the humiliation and hatred. In the Great Deacon's office, Gu Yang's silver-haired hand was holding a pen shakily. He was replying page by page on the file. A young Silver Star instructor said with a smile, Great Deacon, your hand holding the pen is trembling more and more. Gu Yang glanced at him and said, You are so meddlesome. I know. He suddenly put down the pen and leaned back in the chair. He said with a smile, I'm old. This should have been done by the younger generation. Unfortunately, the talents in the holy sanctum of the empire have withered. Many geniuses lost their precious lives in the chaos of Lanyan City 3 years ago. Alas, the young instructor smiled. Great Deacon, are you talking about Deacon Lin Muyu? Although I have not seen him before, everyone in the Divine Temple remembers him. He is the youngest person in the empire to have the strength of a heavenly king. Not only the strength of a heavenly king. Gu Yang's eyes flickered with a faint light. He said, If you did not die, with his speed of advancement, I am afraid he would have already stepped into the holy region. Great Deacon's resignation request to His Highness was rejected. His Highness said that the Longdan army camp also needs people. No matter what, Qin Yen cannot return to the Divine Temple as the Great Deacon. Yes, they all need people. Gu Yang heaved a long sigh and picked up his brush once again. Chapter 321. In the middle of the night, the starlight transformed into beams of beautiful light that shot deep into the mountains. The huge purple crystal had been completely washed out by the torrential rain and was exposed to the starlight. The young man in the crystal looked at the starry sky like lightning. His whole body surged with fighting energy, and the starlight slowly seeped into his body like flowing water. It's finally done. The stars have entered my body. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor cheered in the ocean of mind. as if Lin Muyu's success in obtaining the power of the stars was equivalent to him cultivating a peerless martial art. Phew! Lin Muyu exhaled slowly. The wound on her chest had slowly healed after 3 years of cultivation. Just as the Demon Emperor had said, the profound spirit ruler in her left arm had the world's most mysterious healing power and had the ability to bring the dead back to life. Moreover, at this moment, Lin Muyu felt that her body was overflowing with the power of the stars. In the ocean of mind, another voice sounded, "Brother Tati, I feel terrible." It was Lulu. "What's wrong, Lulu?" Lin Muyu asked in shock. Lulu wailed in pain, and her graceful body appeared in the ocean of mind. She hugged her head and moaned. When she raised her head, her face was pale and she said, "Brother, be careful, something is going to rush out of my head." "Rush out of your head?" Lin Muyu looked confused. "Lulu, don't scare me." However, at this moment, there was a sudden bang. In Lin Muyu's mind, another huge golden lock was unlocked. Some obscure golden characters turned into stars and fell into the ocean of mind, as if a meteor storm had fallen in the ocean of mind. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was shocked and hurriedly turned to dodge. At the same time, he shouted, "What is it?" After about half a minute, the meteor storm finally stopped. Lin Muyu was sweating profusely as she lay in the crystal. Her face was flushed and she said, "Is it the star technique?" Lulu gasped for air with her mouth wide open. "When I deleted the constellation arts, I didn't delete it completely, and the data was left in my cache." "Brother, did you see the constellation arts?" "Yes." Lin Muyu was ecstatic. The astral arts was the ultimate skill in the game Conquer. There were a total of 9 levels, and she was unrivaled in the world of Conquer with the help of the astral arts. Now that she had actually obtained the martial arts secret manual of the astral arts in the real world of the Shattered Cauldron realm, this was simply a great fortune bestowed by the heavens. The golden words shuttled back and forth in her mind. Lin Muyu's martial arts foundation was already very deep, so naturally, she could easily understand these secret manuals. The first level of the astral arts, astral integration. Now that he had completed it, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The fighting energy flowing in his body began to revolve rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a deep blue star energy floating in the palm of his hand. It was the first move of the star formula, Initial Starlight. Lulu smiled and said, "Congratulations on regaining the star art, big brother." "Yes." Lin Muyu slowly dispersed the star energy in the palm of his hand, only to feel that the qi gene in her body had never been stronger before. However, when she tried to comprehend the second level of the astral arts, she encountered some obstruction. The martial arts manual stated that one must cultivate the star energy in the sea of mind, but with Lin Muyu's current attainments, it was clear that she was unable to do so. After trying for a while, she could only give up. The most important thing now was to break this purple crystal before her, otherwise it wouldn't be considered a true resurrection. At this time, Lin Muyu also realized that the chatterbox of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had actually been silent for a long time. She couldn't help but ask, "Demon Emperor, what's wrong? Why aren't you saying a word?" The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was silent for a while, then said, "Weak chicken, where did you get this astral arts from?" "It came with the game. How is this possible?" The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor roared angrily in the sea of mind, actually causing waves that were tens of thousands of feet high. He stood in the sky, looking disdainfully at the sky, and said, "I, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, exhausted my entire life to research this unparalleled secret art, the 7 luminaries' profound energy. You brat, how could you comprehend such an unparalleled secret art like the astral arts? The astral arts is stronger than the 7 luminaries' profound energy?" Lin Muyu asked. "Yes." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was a magnanimous person. He nodded and said, "Not only is it stronger than the 7 luminaries' profound energy in terms of strength, but it refines the power of the stars in the universe to cultivate martial arts, so there is almost no backlash to the body. Tell me the truth, who researched and created this astral arts?" "I really don't know," how about? Lin Muyu pondered, then said, the martial arts of the astral arts are in my mind, Demon Emperor. You also live in my Yi. You can take it and cultivate at any time, I don't mind. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor laughed. There's no need for that, just because you are so honest, I can't secretly learn your unique secret art. Moreover, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, never believe in heresy. Don't worry, I have all the time in the world to improve and strengthen the 7 luminaries' profound energy. I definitely won't lose to your astral arts. Weak chicken, do you feel the increase in strength? That's why. Because you have broken through and stepped into the 3rd heaven of the heaven realm. I see. Lin Muyu looked around and said, it's a pity that there is no strong spiritual beast to provide spiritual energy for me to advance. I don't know if the Green Gourd will be able to obtain the ability of the martial spirit if I miss this opportunity. Who said there is no spiritual beast? Look at the sky. Lin Muyu looked up and saw a golden light slowly swimming down from the sky. It was a 3-clawed golden dragon, its scales glowing with a faint golden light. This is a real dragon. A real dragon, how can it? Lin Muyu was shocked. The 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch let out a hollow laugh. The Crimson Crystal Dragon's crystal is surrounded by the corpse of a giant python. If I'm not mistaken, it should be a giant python that has turned into a dragon. It has been a dragon for 10 years, so the true dragon that has turned into a dragon has returned to the corpse to absorb the remaining dragon force. It's quite a fortunate encounter. Let's find a way to kill the true dragon. Slay a dragon? Lin Muyu was stunned. That is a real dragon. Don't be afraid, you are such a coward. The 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch burst out laughing. It's only a cub of the dragon tribe. Its strength is at most equivalent to a spiritual beast that's around 12,000 years old. Besides, I already have a complete god horoscope, which allows me to materialize a physical attack. Do you really think you're going to lose to a real dragon with me around? More importantly, this real dragon can provide dragon energy to resurrect the Acatosaurus that has been dead for 5 years. Lin Muyu nodded. She could feel that the soul of the Acatosaurus did not dissipate. Instead it was entrenched in a ball, lying on her chest, looking up and howling at her, as if the dragon soul still had the consciousness of the young dragon. At that moment, Lin Muyu had mixed feelings. The Acatosaurus's dependence and loyalty was really rare. The 3-clawed golden dragon suddenly swooped down, looking at the purple crystal with hostility. It immediately opened its mouth and bit the purple crystal, but the dragon scale crystal of the Acatosaurus was too hard. It was not damaged at all. Instantly, the 3-clawed golden dragon was enraged, opened its mouth and a ball of fire dragon breath. Voila! The high-temperature dragon breath burned the purple crystal, instantly causing the soul of the Acatosaurus to let out a cry. Now, break the dragon crystal. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor shouted. Use the first form of your astral arts. But Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice. Starlight once again appeared in her palm. A deep blue star suddenly exploded in the purple crystal. Bang! The entire purple crystal let out an explosive sound and cracks appeared on it. Damn! The Demon Emperor was shocked. No, if this continues, your body will be shattered by the astral arts before the purple crystal is broken. Can you use the 7 glorious stars transformation? Let me try. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth and gathered all of his do qi. Immediately, the 7 luminaries' profound force circulated around his body. The profound force slowly turned into stars and appeared in his palm. He opened his palm lightly and instantly, dozens of stars turned into impact energy and blasted out. Bang! The dragon crystal exploded, releasing a golden light that shot into the sky. The golden gourd surrounded Lin Muyu, making him look like a god even though his armor was tattered. The 7 glorious stars transformation was indeed frighteningly powerful. Furthermore, it was an AoE attack. It was hard to imagine how much explosive power it would have if it was used in a chaotic battle. However, it was just a thought. The damage caused by the 7 glorious stars transformation could not be ignored. At this moment, Lin Muyu's newly reborn body was filled with pain, as if every inch of her skin was about to explode.
What?
The three-clawed golden dragon roared and charged towards Lin Muyu. It opened its mouth wide and looked like it was going to swallow this powerful young man in one bite. However, it did not have the chance to do so. Suddenly, a golden figure rushed out of Lin Muyu's eye. It was the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor with a complete divine spark. Evil creature, how dare you be so arrogant? The Seven Brilliance Demon Monarch let out a roar and opened his hand. It immediately turned into a giant palm and grabbed the three-clawed golden dragon's neck with brute force. He waved his left hand and unleashed the Seven Luminaries' mystical force. Wisps of blood-red beastly force surged as the Seven Brilliance Demon Monarch burst out laughing, "Die! Tri-Luminaries' demonic dance." Bang! The palm fell, and the three-clawed golden dragon's head was instantly smashed, golden blood flowed, and it was dead. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Was this the power of a god emperor? *CK. It was too exaggerated, a real dragon did not even have the power to resist in his hands, and the Tri-Luminaries' demonic dance was more than 10 times stronger than her when used by the real master, the Seven Luminaries' Demon Emperor. As if seeing through Lin Muyu's thoughts, the Seven Luminaries' Demon Emperor slowly threw the three-clawed golden dragon's soft corpse to the side, rubbed his hands, and laughed. Perhaps humans treat dragons as one of the strongest creatures, but, to put it bluntly, I may offend the descendants of Yen and Huang, but in the endless divine realm, the role of the dragon clan is similar to the Huskies, Samoyeds, and Alaskans you raise. Lin Muyu said, "That's the legendary three-sled fools, don't underestimate them, still stupid? Refine the dragon's soul immediately." Yes. Chapter 322. Although the three-clawed golden dragon's beast soul was only at the level of a 2,000-year-old spiritual beast, it was still a dragon's soul. It was not easy to refine it completely. Fortunately, Lin Muyu had the treasure-refining cauldron, and with the help of the heavenly fire, she finally managed to refine the dragon's soul after 4 hours. At the same time, the Acatosaurus's dragon's soul slowly condensed and turned into a small dragon. It returned to its original appearance, but it continued to chew on everything. Not only did it finish the huge purple crystal, it also pounced on the three-clawed golden dragon's corpse. It even swallowed the precious three-clawed golden dragon's spirit stone. Awoo! It raised its head and howled again. It had evolved. Not long after, 5 golden lines appeared on the small dragon's head. It had actually grown into a 5,000-year-old spiritual beast. As expected, it was from the Holy Dragon clan. After devouring the body of a true dragon, its growth speed was far faster than devouring normal spiritual beasts. As Lin Muyu refined the last of the dragon's soul, she smiled and asked, "Little fellow, what abilities do you have now?" The red crystal dragon proudly strode into the distance. Suddenly, it raised its head and let out a loud dragon roar towards the sky. Wang wang. The dragon's roar turned into a piercingly cold sound wave storm that swept out in all directions. Boom! The three-clawed golden dragon's corpse before it had fully transformed was instantly smashed into pieces. At the same time, the surrounding forest and grass were all razed to the ground. The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor opened his hand and formed a divine energy domain to protect himself and Lin Muyu from the impact of the dragon's roar. Lin Muyu glared at it and said, "Idiot, aren't you afraid of hurting me?" Xiaolong immediately ran back and rubbed his big head against Lin Muyu's leg. Naturally, Lin Muyu couldn't get angry. At this time, he had finally refined the essence of the three-clawed golden dragon's soul. He suddenly inhaled deeply, and the golden gourd around him emitted a blinding light. It had finally evolved into a grade 8 martial spirit. The golden color of the gourd slowly turned into a purple golden gourd, and at the same time, it gained a new ability, absorption. That's right, it could absorb the opponent's strength. As for how powerful it was, it would only be known in future battles. Lin Muyu slowly let out a sigh of relief. Not long after, the dou qi in her body slowly calmed down. This time, it could be said that her cultivation had increased greatly. Lin Muyu raised her hand and pulled out the Dragon Soul Sword. With a forceful swing, a schwa sound cut through the air. At the same time, a few elf-like milky white Do Qi spirits surrounded the blade. This was the unique ability of a third firmament of the heavenly realm, condensing Do Qi. After the Do Qi spirits were added, the power of this sword increased by at least 50%. This was the increase that Lin Muyu could feel. Moreover, Third Heaven Realm experts had a very pleasant title according to the cultivation levels of the continent: Celestial Emperor. It sounded very impressive, but it was not worth mentioning compared to the Celestial Emperor, the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor. Alright, it's time for me to go. The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor took a deep breath, and divine power circulated around his body. He silently looked at Lin Muyu and said, "Weak chicken, I'm about to ascend to the myriad of heavenly realms. I don't know when I'll come back. You'll have to rely on yourself in the future. Don't die, wait for me to come back and see how strong you've become." Lin Muyu nodded and said with some sadness, "Then take care of yourself in the future, Demon Emperor." "You're still calling me Demon Emperor?" The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor turned around and smiled. "Can't you be a little more emotional, like those little bitches?" "Big brother," Lin Muyu muttered. The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor's body trembled slightly, and he gritted his teeth. He walked forward and patted Lin Muyu's shoulder lightly, saying, "Good kid, I originally wanted to help you kill Luo Lan in Lingnan before ascending, but this is your destiny. It doesn't seem right for me to complete it. This goes against the laws of heaven and earth. I'm leaving, take care of yourself." The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor looked up at the sky, and with a shrill cry, a golden light shot into the sky, breaking a huge hole in the sky. Blood-red ancient text surrounded the hole, and turned into a pillar of light that poured down. Was that the path to the heavenly realm? Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel envious, but also a little reluctant. I'm leaving." The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor leaped, and his whole body flew into the sky, and soon turned into a small figure. Lin Muyu sighed. Those who should go must go. She and the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor met and fought against each other, and both wanted to kill each other, but who would have thought that they would become brothers who would go through life and death together in the end? But at this moment, suddenly, the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor's cry came from behind again. He turned around, and the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor appeared on the bare ground, and said with a smile, "Oh right, there's one more thing I almost forgot." "Oh, what is it?" The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor laughed, and pointed at the forest in the distance, saying, "Shouldn't you be cutting down this forest, because it's blocking your view of Big Brother?" His words instantly made Lin Muyu lose the feeling of parting, and she only shook her head. "You still don't know how to speak. Big Brother, what is it?" "I'll give you a good treasure." The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor raised his hand and gently grabbed at the void. Instantly, a section of a charred broken sword appeared in his palm. This thing, although it doesn't look very impressive, if you can refine it with the treasure refining cauldron and integrate it into your bloodline, it will become a peerless treasure, and you will definitely go crazy with joy. Lin Muyu took the broken sword, and said, "Is it that magical?" "Of course, when have I ever lied to you?" I'm leaving. Take care of yourself, and don't get killed by others. If I'm not here, no one will be able to resurrect you." "Okay." This time, the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor really left. He leaped into the void, and stepped into a spatial crack. In the next moment he appeared in another spatial crack high in the sky, and with a turn of his body he disappeared into the gate of heaven. Not long after, the gate of heaven closed. Lin Muyu looked up at everything in the sky, and couldn't help but sigh. Fate had always been like this, it was all about karma. When the Demon Emperor relied on his own body to cultivate the rebirth godhood, it was called karma. When the Demon Emperor cultivated the godhood and stepped into the myriad god realm again, it was called karma. There was no need to force anything, and he just had to walk the path in the future. Looking at his tattered body, he couldn't help but sigh. All of the Sanctum's armor had been destroyed by Luo Lan, and he was now like a beggar. Lin Muyu took out his cosmos sack and rummaged through it, but he could only find diamond coins, white diamond crystals, pear blossom spear, and so on. The sanctum's armor storage had already been used up. Forget it, he would think about it after returning to the sanctum. Perhaps, if the sanctum was still around. At this moment he suddenly missed Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Yao. Were they still alive? How was the Qin Empire now? It had been 3 years. He had to know what had happened in these 3 years. He gathered his dou qi and with a leap he used falling star steps and disappeared into the forest. Looking up at the stars in the sky, he identified the direction and headed south. Lanyan City was to the south of the dragon-seeking forest, so he couldn't go wrong. After galloping until midnight, he was so tired that he was drenched in sweat. Finally, he got out of the dragon-seeking forest, and in front of him was an ordinary forest. There were no spiritual beasts that were too old in this forest, only some wild boars, badgers, wolves, and other animals. Therefore, there were many hunters and farmers scattered in the mountains. Not long ago, he saw a trace of light coming from a small house in the distance. At this time, Lin Muyu was cold and hungry, so he couldn't care less. He walked straight into the small courtyard and knocked on the wooden door. Dong dong, 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 dong. After a few knocks, a ray of light came from the small courtyard, and an old voice asked, "Who is it?" Lin Muyu said respectfully outside the door, "Uncle, I am a passerby. I encountered a wild beast and lost my luggage, so I want to stay here for a night and eat something hot. I will leave early tomorrow morning." Creak. The door opened, and the old man, who was about 60 years old, raised the oil lamp high and shone it on Lin Muyu's face. Seeing that he didn't look like a bad person, he said with a smile, "Young man, it's too dangerous for you to walk around in the forest alone in the middle of the night. Come in quickly." "Thank you, Viv." "Old woman, get up. Cook vegetable soup for this young man, steam 2 steamed buns, and find a set of my son's clothes." Not long after, Lin Muyu changed into a set of hunter's clothes. The old man looked at him with a smile and said, "This is my son's clothes. He went to Lanyan City to be a soldier 2 years ago and hasn't been back for a long time. You can wear this set of clothes. It's good that you don't think it's shabby." "He went to Lanyan City to be a soldier?" Lin Muyu pursed his lips, put down the soup bowl and said, "Uncle, which army does he belong to in Lanyan City?" "The Imperial Army. 2 years ago, when the Imperial Army recruited new soldiers, he joined." "The Imperial Army?" Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. "Who's the commander of the Imperial Army? I think it's someone called Feng? Feng something." "Feng Jixing? Yes. Young man, do you know General Feng Jixing?" "Of course I do." Lin Muyu was very excited. "Uncle, so, the empire has recovered. What about Iha Nation? You haven't been in the mountains all this time, right?" The old man looked at him in surprise and said, "Those dogs from Iha Nation were naturally driven to Lingen." "Those beasts?" Lin Muyu widened his eyes and asked again, "The empire? Who's the emperor now?" "There are no more emperors," the old man said faintly. "What?" Lin Muyu felt a pain in his chest and asked, "Why are there no more emperors?" "Because there's only the empress now and no emperor. Ever since Her Highness Qin Yin ascended the throne, there has been no more emperors. So that's how it is." Lin Muyu was almost scared to death and asked again, "Uncle, do you know Princess Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao? Also, do you know the situation in the Longdan army camp?" The old man was confused by the questions and replied, "I'm just a hunter. I really don't know anything about these princesses and the army." I said, "Thank you, too. Eat more and sleep early. Look at you, you must be exhausted." Chapter 323. Under the moonlit night, the Imperial Army camp at the foot of Dragon Rocky Mountain. Feng Jixing was sleeping with his clothes on. His saber was placed at the side. Outside the tent, more than 10 Imperial guards were observing the surroundings with stern gazes. They were on high alert. Rustle. The night wind blew the purple Yinhua Empire's war flag. The sound of the fluttering seemed to cover up the voice of the person in the wind. "Be careful." It was unknown who shouted, but the voice was abruptly cut off halfway. It was as if someone had snapped the person's throat. In the next moment, a formless aura descended. The group of Imperial Army soldiers guarding the commander's tent were unable to move. There were even a few with lower cultivation who died with blood flowing out of their mouths and noses. This was the power of a domain. Amidst the wind, an old figure spun around. The light of the flames killed more than 10 Imperial Army soldiers. He stepped into the commander's tent and raised his palm. A wave of energy rushed out. Feng Jixing, who was lying on the bed, opened his eyes. He jumped up and grabbed the wind-cutter saber. While in the air, he swept the saber out and shouted, "Hot sand shattering gold." The golden quicksand energy appeared on the wind-slasher blade. Dou Ling lingered around the blade. Feng Jixing had already stepped into the third level of the heaven realm. The wind-slasher blade rapidly struck the old man's palm. There was actually a dang sound. The palm was as hard as steel. Even the wind-slasher blade couldn't cut through it. Formless energy rippled out and Feng Jixing was forced to retreat several steps. He left the camp and looked at Bu Hai under the moonlight. He sneered, "Bu Hai, I knew you would come." Bu Hai walked out of the tent step by step. There were several scars on his face, making him look quite sinister. He laughed loudly and said, "Feng Jixing is indeed Feng Jixing. Unfortunately, no matter how strong you are, you can't reverse the fate of the Empire's defeat. Accept the judgment of heaven." He abruptly raised both his arms, and the power of his martial spirit surged. His martial spirit was a flame wolf, and was somewhat similar to Feng Jixing's violet electric flame wolf, just that it was much stronger. The power of a 9th-layer flame wolf was much stronger than an 8th-layer violet electric flame wolf. Feng Jixing wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He gripped the hilt of his saber tightly and chuckled, "Again!" As a heavenly emperor, he already had the power to fight a saint venerable. Boom, boom, boom. After a few more explosions, the entire Imperial Army camp was in an uproar. Countless soldiers holding torches surrounded Bu Hai from all directions and aimed their bows and arrows at Bu Hai. "Hey!" Bu Hai's eyes turned cold after his iron fists collided and forced Feng Jixing to retreat. He already knew that his plan for tonight's sneak attack had failed. His opponent was well prepared, and Feng Jixing was not as weak as he had expected. The commander of Lanyan City's Imperial Army was extraordinarily powerful. It would take at least 50 rounds to kill him. However, there were more and more Imperial Army soldiers surrounding him, and he did not have that much time. Bu Hai leaped up and crushed the head of an Imperial guard with his battle boots. He laughed loudly and said, "You have more people, so I won't bother with you. There are more than 3,000 swordsmen on Dragon Rocky Mountain. If you want to attack the mountain, go ahead and attack. Let's see how many teeth you can break after gnawing this hard bone." Trying to leave. In the darkness, Wei Chou rode his horse forward with a longbow in his hand. Behind him was a group of soldiers from the Longdan army camp. Even Qin Yan and Feng Shi were here. Qin Yan shouted and rushed forward with his spear. "Get lost." Bu Hai waved his palm in the air, but it met with a martial spirit as hard as an iron plate. Qin Yan's dragon scale armor was known as the world's #1 defense-type martial spirit. How could it be so easily repelled? Being blocked by Qin Yan, the Imperial Army soldiers at the side immediately shot thousands of arrows. "You want to kill me with mere arrows?" Bu Hai was extremely arrogant. He waved his sleeve, and the chi of his domain surged out, twisting the arrows. He raised his palm, and the flame wolf martial spirit came out. A wave of flames fell into the crowd, and instantly, dozens of Imperial Army soldiers were on fire, and they howled miserably. However, Bu Hai ignored the attack of the Longdan army camp. Wei Chou, Luo Yu, Feng Shi, and the others drew their bows and arrows from afar, and after aiming, a round of fierce shots was fired. Pa pa pa. Most of the arrows were blocked, but one of the white diamond arrows passed through the range of Bu Hai's chi, and with a pu sound, it drilled into Bu Hai's arm. "Bastard!" Bu Hai flew into a rage out of humiliation, but he also knew that if he stayed any longer, he would definitely die. Just like the legend said, The Empire had an army called the Longdan Army Camp, and they had arrows that could pierce through battle armor. They were very powerful. As a holy domain expert, Bu Hai couldn't fight against thousands of soldiers and horses, but it was still relatively easy for him to escape. His right arm was dripping with blood, and Bu Hai took out the arrow. He gritted his teeth and threw it away. After rushing out of the Imperial Army's encirclement, he immediately stepped into the dense forest and didn't return to Dragon Rocky Mountain. Saving his life was more important than anything else. Under the moonlight, Feng Jixing slowly sheathed his long saber, and with a faint smile on his face, he said, "It seems like the disciples under Luo Lan aren't all that powerful. There are still idiots." Wei Chou stepped forward and said with a fist and palm salute, "General Feng, Bu Hai has been injured and abandoned Dragon Rocky Mountain. What should we do?" According to the original plan, attack the mountain tomorrow morning and uproot the forces of the House of Chivalry on Dragon Rocky Mountain. Wei Chou, after taking down Dragon Rocky Mountain, arranged for 500 soldiers from the Longdan Army Camp to guard Dragon Rocky Mountain and protect Dragon Rocky Village at the foot of the mountain from the harassment of the House of Chivalry. Lanyan City has neglected this place for too long. Yes. Feng Jixing looked at the direction where Bu Hai escaped from afar, and a trace of killing intent appeared in his eyes. He said, "Bu Hai, you can escape once, but you can't escape forever." In the early morning, the golden rays of the morning sun penetrated the clouds and shone on the earth. It was already late autumn, and the sky was sprinkled with white frost, as if it was a fine snow. Lin Muyu put a diamond coin on the table of the hunter's house and left without saying goodbye. He tied the Qinghuan bag to his waist and wore the hunter's clothes with the dragon spiritual sword on his back. He looked a bit like a chivalrous man in the mountains. He walked slowly along the rugged mountain road. When it was almost noon, he took out the flatbread in the Qinghuan bag and chewed it hard. He felt that the most delicious thing in the world was nothing more than this. This was probably the happiness of living. The water in the water bag had a hint of sweetness. This was the mountain spring water of the hunter's house. After drinking a few mouthfuls, Lin Muyu continued his journey. But not long after, a figure sprang out of the jungle on one side. It was an old man in a golden costume, with blood on his arm. It seemed that he was injured, and the old man's face was full of hostility. It was the injured Bu Hai. He had already seen Lin Muyu, so he immediately walked over and asked, "Young man, I want to ask you something. Do you know how to get to Cangnan Province?" "Cangnan Province?" Lin Muyu pointed to the east and said, "It should be this direction. Just follow the official road and you will reach it." "Good, thank you." Bu Hai cupped his hands and smiled. His eyes stopped on the hilt of the dragon spiritual sword on Lin Muyu's back. He could not help but laugh. "Looking at your attire, you should be a hunter in the mountains. It is rare for a hunter to have such an exquisite longsword." Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse technique had already sensed that the old man's do qi was rapidly increasing. He did not come with good intentions. He immediately smiled and said, "Yes, it was passed down from my ancestors." "Can you give it to this old man?" Bu Hai laughed and said, "That won't do." Lin Muyu had a petty look on his face. "Then this old man will have to steal it myself?" Bu Hai smiled with a sinister look. Lin Muyu also smiled. He raised his hand and pulled out the dragon spiritual sword. He slightly smiled and said, "This old man's sword does not kill nameless ghosts. Tell me your name first." "A trash like you dares to call yourself this old man?" Bu Hai laughed loudly. The greed in his eyes intensified. The moment the dragon spiritual sword was unsheathed, he was even more certain that it was a peerless sword. He sneered, "In the dragon-seeking forest, there is nothing that I, Bu Hai, cannot obtain." His iron palm suddenly opened. The flame wolf martial spirit roared unceasingly. He actually wanted to forcibly snatch the sword. This was exactly what Lin Muyu wanted. The opponent was an expert of the sanctuary, so she first pretended to be weak, and her own chi strength was only at the human realm. Just as Bu Hai was grabbing the sword, she suddenly raised her do chi to its peak state. The long sword suddenly flipped over, and a spiral chi strength lingered around it. The true dragon primary fire was rapidly injected into it. The rapidly spiraling dragon spiritual sword was not something that could be seized with bare hands. Bu Hai was startled. He felt the vigorous and overbearing power of the stars in Lin Muyu's body. His eyes swept over. A starlight shot out from Lin Muyu's palm and directly hit his back. Sneak attack this old man? In your dreams! Bu Hai suddenly condensed his Do Chi to form a battle armor behind him to resist Lin Muyu's fierce attack. But he didn't know how strong Lin Muyu's strength was. The power of the star art surged on his arm and directly hit Bu Hai's back with initial starlight. Bu Hai vomited blood immediately. He had lost at least 30% of his strength due to his injuries. Now that he had stumbled into a third heavenly layer heaven realm expert with a unique skill like Lin Muyu, he was on par with her in terms of strength, but he was utterly defeated in terms of moves. Even the Seven Brilliance Demon Emperor was amazed by the constellation art, so how could Bu Hai possibly resist it? After defeating the enemy with one move, Lin Muyu suddenly opened her hand and grabbed Bu Hai's throat. She shouted in a low voice, "Who the hell are you?" Bu Hai gritted his teeth. "Your grandfather is the disciple of Venerable Luolan. If you dare to kill me, Venerable Luolan will definitely not let you go." Luolan's people? Lin Muyu frowned. "What, are you afraid now?" Bu Hai's eyes were filled with pride. Lin Muyu's eyes were cold. "Look at your age, you have lived in the stomach of a dog. Die in peace, Luolan will accompany you to hell sooner or later." True dragon essence fire surged between her fingers and began to burn Bu Hai's throat. Bu Hai wouldn't wait for death. He punched with his left fist, and the power of the flame wolf lingered around his fist. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She raised her other arm and spread her fingers. A purple gold gourd emerged, and a boundless cyclone quickly absorbed everything in the world. In the next moment, Bu Hai's flame wolf martial soul was forcibly sucked into the golden gourd. How? Bu Hai was shocked. In the next moment, the true dragon essence fire quickly swallowed his body. Chapter 324. Grabbing the purple gold gourd in his hand, Lin Muyu shook it vigorously. Sure enough, the flame wolf was still roaring inside the gourd. This was really amazing. Could the gourd absorb other people's martial spirits? Originally, he thought it was as simple as absorbing energy, but what to do with the absorbed martial spirit was also a big problem. No matter, he would refine it first. He immediately took out the treasure refining cauldron. Under the scorching flames, the flame wolf howled miserably. Even though it was a fire martial spirit, it could not withstand the temperature of the treasure refining cauldron. Woo-woo. Not long after, the flame wolf unexpectedly prostrated and made a gesture of submission. Lin Muyu's heart moved. He raised his palm and ordered, "Enter my body and work for me." The flame wolf unexpectedly cried out in joy, but just as it was about to jump into Lin Muyu's blood vessels, its body suddenly shone brightly. The golden gourd came out of its body and rapidly spun. Waves of martial spirit's power rushed out and bombarded the flame wolf several steps back, causing it to fall into the treasure refining cauldron. My goodness, the golden gourd is repelling me. Just as Lin Muyu was hesitating, the crimson crystal dragon that was connected to his soul suddenly woke up. The dragon's soul pounced out and bit off the flame wolf's head. Then, it swallowed the flame wolf in a few bites. Fuck. Lin Muyu was completely petrified. The things in front of him were completely beyond his understanding. The golden gourd martial spirit could steal other people's martial spirits, but it could not be used by itself. Xiaolong even ate Bu Hai's martial spirit. What was going on? As for why it could not have an offensive martial spirit like the flame wolf, perhaps it was because a person's body could not accommodate two martial spirits at the same time? If not for this reason, then there was only one other reason. The golden gourd disliked the flame wolf martial spirit and did not want to coexist with it. If this was the case, then the golden gourd martial spirit was too arrogant. Lin Muyu shook her head and checked Bu Hai's body. She found the emblem of the Hall of Chivalry's Grand Chess User. This guy was actually a grand chess user? It seemed that the power of the House of Chivalry had once again infiltrated the territory of Lanyan City. No matter what, he had to return to Lanyan City and see Qin Yin first. By the time Lin Muyu arrived at the outskirts of the city, it was already late at night. The walls of Lanyan City had been repaired, but the damage caused by the battle 3 years ago could still be vaguely seen. Lin Muyu looked up at the cracks and burn marks on the walls. She couldn't help but think of the battle 3 years ago. Chu Huai had died in battle outside these walls, and Jin Xiang had died right on top of these walls. Standing there silently, Lin Muyu's heart was filled with sadness and excitement. She was about to see the girl she deeply loved. 3 years later, what would Qin Yin look like now? As he approached the walls, several imperial guards immediately raised their bows and aimed at him. Who are you? Don't you know that entering Lanyan City at night is prohibited? Lin Muyu looked up at him. She didn't know him, so she said, Who is in charge here? I am in charge. A centurion looked at her with contempt and said, What's wrong? Do you know me? No, I don't know you. Lin Muyu smiled. Your rank is still too low. I want to ask, who is your superior? Lord Bai Yu, the centurion of the Imperial Guards. What's wrong? What about my superior? Oomph. The centurion looked displeased. Are you a spy from the Iha kingdom? How dare you ask about our Imperial Guards? Someone open the door and bring him to me. Yes. A small door on the side of the main gate quickly opened, and a dozen cavalrymen quickly mounted their horses and rushed out. However, Lin Muyu didn't escape. Facing the light of the torches, she looked at the crowd with a smile in her eyes. I didn't expect that after 3 years, the Imperial Guards would treat me like this. The centurion looked angry. You speak as if you are the king of heaven. Or you. If you don't tell me, I'll kill you. Admit it, are you a spy from the Iha kingdom? You still won't admit it. I won't admit it. You're asking for death. I want to live. You bastard. You're shameless. While the two of them were arguing, a group of people suddenly came from afar. The general at the front shouted in a low voice, Who's making a ruckus here in the middle of the night? Don't you know the rules of the capital? The centurion quickly turned around and cupped his fists. Deputy Commander, this kid insisted on barging into the capital at night. He even inquired about the names of our high-ranking generals. I suspect that this kid is a spy from the Iha kingdom. Deputy Commander, please make a judgment. The deputy commander was none other than Zhang Wei. With a face full of beard, he rode forward with a long saber in hand. He looked down at Lin Muyu and said in a dignified voice, Kid, raise your head. Let me see your face. Old Zhang, long time no see. Lin Muyu slowly raised his head. His handsome face had a bright smile under the flickering light of the torches. Zhang Wei trembled and fell from his horse. He scrambled to his feet and knelt on one knee, cupping his fists. Master. Master Lin Muyu, is that really you? Lin Muyu helped Zhang Wei up and smiled. But, are you suspecting that I'm a ghost? Zhang Wei gently grabbed Lin Muyu's arm and couldn't help laughing. No, you're not a ghost. Sir, you're really not dead. Heavens, this is great news. Shoo! Lin Muyu whispered, Don't spread this news. Take me into the city first. I want to find a place to take a hot bath. Also, help me find a set of clothes that fits me. It would be best if it's the Imperial Guard's armor. Yes. Zhang Wei smiled and cupped his fists. Although Lanyan City no longer has the Imperial Guard, there are many Imperial Guard's armor in the armory. Sir, please follow me. There's a place to take a bath in the Imperial Guard's camp. The sky was filled with stars. Lin Muyu fetched a horse and rode it with Zhang Wei on Tongtian Street. Sir, aren't you going to see His Highness first? Zhang Wei was still excited. Did you know? Everyone thought you were dead. His Highness, Princess Shi, and Head Deacon Chu Yao have been thinking about you day and night. Now that they see that you're still alive, they'll definitely be overjoyed. Why don't old Zhang take you to see Her Highness before she sleeps? Old Zhang is now the deputy commander of the Imperial Guard and has the authority to see His Highness directly. No. Lin Muyu laughed bitterly. I've been in a coma for almost 3 years. Do you think my dirty appearance is suitable to see His Highness? Zhang Wei couldn't help but laugh. He scratched his head. Almost forgot. Old Zhang is a boorish person and doesn't understand things like love. If Sir wants to see His Highness, you must dress up. Lin Muyu also blushed. Look at what you're saying. Not long after, they entered the Imperial Army's main camp. Lin Muyu went to take a bath while Zhang Wei stood guard outside the door and helped him prepare a set of Imperial Guard armor. After washing up, Lin Muyu shaved his beard and hastily cut his hair a few times. Although it was messy, he still looked outstanding. When Lin Muyu put on the armor, even Zhang Wei could not help but exclaim, "This set of armor looks as though it was made for milord." "Ah," Lin Muyu said, "Old Zhang, tell me what happened in the past 3 years." Zhang Wei nodded. "Sir, after you were killed by Luo Lan, Lanyan City was massacred. More than 1 million people died. Then, Princess Shi mobilized 50,000 soldiers from Qihai City and 100,000 soldiers from the Demon Clan to attack Lanyan City. After that, Muyu City and Qihai City both sent their troops. The Iha Kingdom's troops retreated again and again. After a great defeat at Wugu City, they returned to Lingnan. Now, the 6 provinces of Lingbei are all within our empire's territory." "Oh," Lin Muyu murmured, "Su Muyun and Tang Lan are finally willing to send their troops?" Zhang Wei smiled awkwardly. "Sir, please be careful with your words. Now, Duke Yun and Duke Lan are the 2 most important ministers in the empire. More than 80% of the empire's military power is in their hands. Even though Her Highness is the Empress, she has very little real power. It can be said that the Qin Empire now belongs to Tang and Su. Old Zhang will only say this once. Otherwise, General Feng will scold me again." "All right, let's go see Xiao Yin." "Yes." In Zetian Palace Hall, the candlelight swayed slowly in the breeze. Many files were piled up on the Empress's table. Qin Yin was kneeling there with a tired look on her face. She was flipping through the memorials one by one as she slowly reviewed them. Su Muyun was sitting on the other side, holding a military book in his hand, and was studying it with his eyes narrowed. An attendant at the side said softly, "Your Highness, after the reconstruction of the Tianshu army, the position of commander has been left undecided. The Ministry of War has submitted a request to decide on the candidate for the commander of the Tianshu army." Qin Yin pursed her red lips and asked, "Grandfather, who do you think is the best candidate to be the commander of the Tianshu army?" Su Muyun frowned and said, "Let Su Long be it. He is the deputy commander of the Iron Blade army. He is good at fighting and has great strategy." Qin Yin said, "Actually, in terms of strategy and ability, Luo Yu, Feng Shi, and Qin Yan are several times better than Su Long. I feel that one of them can be chosen to lead the Tianshu army. After all, General Su Long is currently the deputy commander of the Iron Blade army. As I said before, Xiao Yin, you don't have to worry about the affairs of the army." Su Muyun smiled and said, "Grandfather will arrange everything for you. Don't worry, I'm tired and will go to sleep first. Guards, protect Her Highness well. Don't let anything happen to her." Outside the door, a group of guards from Muyu City cupped their fists and said, "Yes, Duke Yun." Qin Yin sat there blankly, and her eyes flickered with humiliation and helplessness. Not long after Su Muyun left, an attendant knocked on the door and said, "Your Highness, the Deputy Commander of the Imperial Guards, General Zhang Wei, requests an audience." "Zhang Wei?" Qin Yin was stunned and said, "Invite Sir Zhang Wei in." Zhang Wei pushed open the door and entered. Behind him was a general wearing a white robe. However, he had lifted his white cloak to cover his face, so it was impossible to tell who he was. "Your Highness." Zhang Wei cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Congratulations, Your Highness." Qin Yin slowly stood up. Ever since Zhang Wei had entered, she had not looked at him at all. Her gaze had been fixed on the person behind Zhang Wei. He was dressed in the armor of the Imperial Guard, which she had not seen in a long time. Although it looked ordinary and unremarkable, the hilt of a sword protruding from the cloak behind him was incomparably familiar. At this moment, Qin Yin's shoulders trembled slightly. She stepped on a pile of memorials and walked down the stairs in a daze. She murmured, "Can you lift your cloak and let me see?" Lin Muyu gently lifted the cloak, and a handsome face appeared in front of Qin Yin. He still had that familiar bright smile on his face. "Xiao Yin, how are you?" Chapter 325. Qin Yin stood there in a daze as if she had been petrified. Her beautiful eyes stared straight at Lin Muyu as tears flowed from her eyes. She shook her head slowly. "It's not true, it's definitely not true. You are not him at all, right?" Lin Muyu naturally understood the pain that Qin Yin had suffered for 3 years. He also understood that she could not believe that it was him in front of her. He smiled and said softly, "Xiao Yin, it's really me. I'm not dead. If you don't believe me, look." He opened his hand and the golden gourd martial spirit slowly appeared in his palm and rotated gently. A few battle spirit energy lingered around his arm. He smiled and said, "I slept for 3 years and spent 3 years to heal the wound caused by Luolan. It was the self-healing ability of the profound spirit ruler that saved me. Do you believe me now?" Qin Yin looked at him with tears streaming down her face. The next moment, she opened her arms and threw herself into his arms. She cried loudly, "I thought I would never see you again in this life. I thought you really didn't want Xiao Yin anymore." Lin Muyu gently stroked her back and said, "How could that be? I said I would definitely come back to see you." Xiao Yin, don't cry. I'm fine now. Qin Yin shook her head forcefully, but she still could not stop crying. It was as if she wanted to vent all the pain and longing she had for the past 3 years. Her tears wetted Lin Muyu's neck and collar. "There aren't many armors left for the royal guards. You've ruined this one with your tears. I'm afraid there won't be any more left." Lin Muyu said softly with a smile. Qin Yin wiped her tears and looked at him with teary eyes. She smiled through her tears and said, "Then the Ministry of Works can continue to forge armors for the royal guards. It's not like there's no more material." "But the royal guards are all gone." Lin Muyu murmured. "Yes, the Imperial Guard is gone," Qin Yin said with a sense of loss. "Xiao Yin, you are now the Empress and no longer the little princess. You can't keep relying on me." "That's not good," Lin Muyu said as she patted her back. However, Qin Yin still wrapped her snow-white arms around his neck and said lovingly, "But I'm worried that once I let go, you'll disappear and everything in front of me will just be a beautiful dream." "I won't." Lin Muyu said lightly, "Since I'm back, I won't leave. I'll always be by your side to accompany you and protect you. Don't worry." At this moment, a group of accompanying officials looked at them with astonished gazes. Many of these people were newly promoted officials and didn't know Lin Muyu at all. Naturally, they were also very astonished. The high and mighty Empress Qin Yin actually threw herself into a man's arms. This was really an unprecedented event. Qin Yin left Lin Muyu's embrace but still firmly held onto his left hand, as if she was really afraid that he would suddenly disappear into thin air. Zhang Wei coughed and said with a smile, "I just received a letter from Commander Yu. Commander Feng Jixing and Commander Wei Chou have already conquered Dragon Rocky Mountain and will be returning to the city tomorrow." Lin Muyu was pleasantly surprised and said, "Wei Chou didn't die either?" "Yes, 3 years ago, the Longdan Army Camp was established as one of the Imperial Legions. General Wei Chou is currently the commander of the Longdan Army Camp. Luo Yu, Qin Yan, and Feng Shi were appointed as deputy commanders." "That's really great." Lin Muyu was overjoyed. "Everyone is fine." "Oh yes, where's Xiao Shi?" Qin Yin said with a smile. "Xiao Yin and Tang Jin are leading 50,000 soldiers to guard the demon-subduing pass. However, they should be making a trip back to the imperial capital tomorrow. You don't have to run over to the demon-subduing pass." Lin Muyu looked at the group of courtiers in front of her and frowned. Qin Yin immediately understood and raised her hand. "All of you can withdraw." I have something to say to General Zhang Wei. Everyone took their leave. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Xiao Yin, don't announce that I'm still alive for the time being. Why? Qin Yin was surprised and opened her small mouth to say, Brother Yu, you are ranked first on the nation guarding monument. Since you're not dead, you should announce it to the world. Moreover, Xiao Yin really needs you right now. It won't do if only General Feng supports me in the imperial court, Zhang Wei also said. That's right, milord. Her Highness's royal authority is almost a mere figurehead. There are very few people in the imperial court who are Her Highness's people. If you also avoid the imperial court, then Her Highness will really be alone and helpless. I don't want to avoid it. Lin Muyu shook her head, saying, It's just that, think about it. Tang Lan's grandson, Tang Bin, died in my hands. How could Tang Lan just let it go? Moreover, Tang Lan now has a large army and occupies half of the Qin Empire. If I suddenly appear at this time, Tang Lan will definitely attack me. I heard that Xiang Yu has already stepped into the Saint Realm. In this case, I may not be Xiang Yu's match. Then what do you want to do? Qin asked. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. Find a chance to announce it to the world. Let everyone know that I'm not dead. This way, Tang Lan won't have a chance to make things difficult for me. That will be the imperial court meeting. Qin Yin's eyes were like water as she said softly, the imperial court meeting that happens once every 7 days will be held the day after tomorrow. At that time, many officials will gather and Zetian Palace will welcome at least 1,000 important officials. At that time, I will announce that Brother Yu is still alive. How about that? All right, let's do that. Lin Muyu looked at Qin Yin and asked, What does Xiao Yin plan to do for me? Qin Yin moved her lips and said, Confer me the title of General-in-Chief and appoint me as the commander of the Imperial Army. Help me rebuild the Imperial Army and stay by Xiao Yin's side. How about that? Lin Muyu lowered her head to look at Qin Yin and smiled as if she had seen through her thoughts. Qin Yin couldn't help but blush and said, Why are you looking at me like that? I just want you to stay by my side. Lin Muyu smiled again and said, Big Brother Feng is already by your side as the commander of the Imperial Army. At this time, Xiao Yi needs someone to charge and break through enemy lines and seize land for you. This person is probably me. So there's no need to say anything more. If we can really expand the Longdan army camp, I'm willing to lead the troops to conquer Iha country. But you just came back to my side. Qin Yin pouted and said with a bit of rebuke, I know. Lin Muyu sat by her side again and said, I also want to stay by your side. Who wouldn't like to have good wine, good food and beautiful women by our side every day? Zhang Wei nodded repeatedly and said, I like it too. You are not allowed to speak. I'm not talking to you. Lin Muyu continued to look at Qin Yin and said, It's just that Xiao Yin is now the empress but has suffered all kinds of grievances. This can't be. Father didn't entrust this to me before he left. So, what Xiao Yin has lost as her brother, I will definitely take it all back inch by inch. Qin Yin nodded and said, But you still have to accompany me more. It's been 3 years. Xiao Yin misses you, got it? Zhang Wei asked, Madam, why don't old Zhang return to the Imperial Army camp and you stay and serve the Empress tonight? Qin Yin's face immediately turned red. Lin Muyu was also a little puzzled. This Zhang Wei's words were getting more and more straightforward. How could she say it in a roundabout way? No need. I want to go back to the Holy Temple to sleep. I haven't seen Grandfather Guyang in a long time. Then, Qin Yin blinked and said, Can Xiao Yin go with you to the Holy Temple? Tonight. I don't want to leave Brother Yu. This, Lin Muyu was a little speechless and said, Old Zhang, think of a way. Zhang Wei grinned and said, In the end, you still have to rely on me. How about this? Your Highness, just say that you are tired and go to Phoenix Perching Hall to change into a guard's uniform and sneak out with us to the Holy Temple. Tomorrow morning, you can rush back to Zetian Hall without anyone knowing. But, Grandfather's guards will be watching. This, Lin Muyu frowned and said, Don't worry, they won't know. But at Phoenix Perching Hall, Qin Yin went into her bedroom to change. In fact, She just needed to put on the Empress's clothes and the guard's armor. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei secretly swapped Qin Yin and rode out of Zetian Hall in the night. At night, Tongtian Street was deserted and was no longer as prosperous as it was 3 years ago. Although the shops along the street had been renovated and merchants had moved in, it was still a city that had been baptized by blood, and the people were still living under a cloud of worry. In the distance, the Holy Temple and the Spiritual Medicine Department looked at each other. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be moved. Was Chu Yao in the Spiritual Medicine Department? Qin Yin saw this and burst into laughter. How about this? After visiting Great Deacon Guyang, I will accompany you to the Spiritual Medicine Department to visit Great Deacon Chu Yao. She will definitely be wild with joy when she sees that you is still alive. Lin Muyu rode his horse slowly to the front of the Holy Temple. The deep pit where Lei Hong died in battle had already been filled up. Fallen leaves fell on the street with the wind, and it looked exceptionally desolate. Dismounting from his horse, Lin Muyu looked at the Holy Temple from afar and suddenly felt a pang of bitterness. He suddenly remembered what Lei Hong had said to him. From the day he entered the Holy Temple, his soul was branded with the Holy Temple. Therefore, no matter how high he flew or how far he went, he would eventually return to the Holy Temple. At this moment, Lin Muyu returned to the Holy Temple again. It was as if his fate had been predetermined long ago. Looking up at the golden words on the Holy Temple, Lin Muyu sighed and clenched his fists. Zhang Wei rode forward and said to the 2 guards, Deputy Commander of the Imperial Guards, Zhang Wei, requests an audience with Great Deacon Guyang. The guards said respectfully, Sir Zhang Wei, I'm afraid the Great Deacon is already asleep. Then wake him up. Zhang Wei smiled slightly. Tell him that I, Zhang Wei, have great news to tell him. The guards were startled, then smiled and said, If that's the case, Sir Zhang Wei, please wait in the guest hall. This subordinate will go and wake the Great Deacon up to see you. The 2 behind, my subordinates, can they come in together? Of course, please come in. Chapter 326. Dong. Dong. The walking stick hit the stone floor rhythmically. The senile Guyang walked step by step towards the guest hall with the help of a temple guard. He said, What the hell is Zhang Wei doing? What kind of great news could he have to tell me? He must have come to the temple to swindle wine again. This guy. Zhang Wei stepped forward and cupped his fists with a smile. Great Deacon Guyang, it's been a long time. Guyang looked at Zhang Wei with blurred eyes. Oh, it really is Lord Zhang Wei. Ha. Zhang Wei's eyes swept across and signaled, I want to speak to Great Deacon Guyang alone. You can all leave. The few temple guards cupped their fists and left the guest hall. Guyang looked at Zhang Wei and said, Say it, what good news is it? I brought someone for you to see, he. Zhang Wei pointed at Lin Muyu behind him and said with a smile, The surprise I was talking about is him. Oh? Guyang walked towards Lin Muyu step by step with his walking stick and asked, Lord, you are? Lin Muyu lifted his hand and lifted the royal guard's hood. His handsome face was filled with a bright smile. Grandpa Guyang, it's been 3 years. You? Guyang instantly recognized Lin Muyu and his face was filled with disbelief. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. He raised his hand and pulled out the dragon spirit sword with a dang sound. The image of a golden gourd appeared around the blade. He smiled and said, Don't ask me if I'm alive or not. I've been dead for the past 3 years, but 2 days ago, I was resurrected. Guyang was so excited that his whole body was trembling. He threw away his walking stick and went forward to touch Lin Muyu's face. He was so excited that he couldn't even speak clearly. It's really you? It's really our you is back? Great, Lin Muyu smiled. Grandpa Guyang, it's really me who came back to see you. How have you been these 3 years? Guyang was already in tears. Once the great deacon died, the entire divine temple fell apart. We spent a whole 3 years to rebuild the divine temple, but the people have changed. The divine temple is no longer as glorious and prosperous as it was in the past. Lin Muyu held onto his arm and said, Don't worry, temple will rise again as long as we have hope in our hearts. Guyang said, "It's good that you is back. I, this old man, can finally abdicate my position. From today onwards, you will be the great deacon of the temple." "That won't do." Qin spoke. She lifted her cloak and revealed a beautiful face. She smiled and said, "Great Deacon Guyang, brother Yu has just returned to my side. There are still many things that I need him to do. You can't just take him away from me like this." Guyang hurriedly cupped his fists and saluted, "Greetings, Your Highness, no need to be so courteous." Qin stepped forward and helped Guyang up. She said, "Great Deacon Guyang is an old and meritorious minister. Greeting me like this is too much. Please get up." Guyang said, "Why did Your Highness come to the divine temple with you?" As soon as he said this, Guyang thought about how Qin and Lin Muyu were actually a pair of lovers. He couldn't help but feel that his question was unnecessary. He immediately smiled and said, "This old minister will immediately arrange a room for Your Highness and you." Qin smiled and nodded. "Arrange a room next to each other. Also, don't let anyone know that we are coming to the divine temple. It's not time yet." This old minister understands. "Then we will go to the spiritual medicine department to pay our respects to Sister Chu Yao." Alright. In the middle of the night, the lotus pond in the spiritual medicine department was sparkling. The fragrance of lotus wafted in the air. Suddenly, ripples appeared on the surface of the water. A beautiful girl dressed in the clothes of a great deacon leaped onto the water. Her feet were shrouded in dense fighting spirit, preventing her from sinking into the water. Step by step, she walked on the water, cultivating the heart and cultivating qi. These were the realms that Chu Yao pursued. Only when her heart was completely calm could she walk on the water. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. After Chu Yao became the great deacon of the spiritual medicine department, she did not slack off in her cultivation. She had already stepped into the heaven realm half a year ago. With this level of cultivation, not to mention the spiritual medicine department, even in the divine temple, she was already considered outstanding. In the distance, 3 figures slowly approached. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. "Sister Chu Yao." "Ah!" Chu Yao was stunned. This voice was so familiar. She had softly called her name in her dreams countless times, but now she heard it in reality. Chu Yao even felt like she was dreaming. "Sister Chu Yao, turn around." Lin Muyu was still on the shore. She said with a smile. Chu Yao stared blankly, her mind in chaos. Now that she was sure this was real, her heart was no longer able to calm down. Naturally, she couldn't control the water any longer. Her delicate body gently fell into the pond, and she let out a startled, "Ah." Lin Muyu reacted quickly. The moment the water covered Chu Yao's ankles, the golden gourd vine flew out and supported Chu Yao's body. Then, Chu Yao stepped lightly and followed the gourd vine to the shore. "You?" She stared at him dumbfounded. I'm not dreaming, am I?" Qin chuckled beside her. "If this is a dream, brother, you will not appear with me." Chu Yao blushed. "Chu Yao greets Your Highness." "You're welcome, Sister Chu Yao." Chu Yao immediately looked at Lin Muyu again. "What's going on? Tell me this is real, quick." Lin Muyu did not speak. She directly walked forward and held Chu Yao in her arms. She said, "During the 3 years I was in the state of death, I was always worried that something would happen to you and Xiaoyin. You would be killed by the beasts of Iha country. Now I see that you are all right. This is really great." Chu Yao already had tears in her eyes. She said in a trembling voice, "I know. You met Luolan because he wanted to go back to Lanyan City to find me. I almost killed you. This is not your fault," Lin Muyu murmured. "If you want to blame someone, you can only blame Luolan for killing the innocent despite being a god." With that, Lin Muyu let go of Chu Yao and said with a smile, "It seems that Sister Chu Yao has not slacked off in the past 3 years. Your cultivation has improved a lot." "Don't make fun of me." Chu Yao blushed and said, "Compared to you and Her Highness my cultivation is not even worth mentioning." Zhang Wei cupped his fists and said, Head Deacon Chu Yao is too humble. You are the head deacon of the spiritual medicine department, but in terms of combat power, I, Zhang Wei, may not be your match. Lin Muyu laughed loudly. Old Zhang, you rely on the courage of a soldier to make a living. It's not the same. Although your strength has not improved much in the past 3 years, I can fight 10 of you. Zhang Wei was speechless. I don't want to talk to Lady Lin Muyu anymore. After reuniting after a long time, Chu Yao ordered a banquet to be held in the spiritual medicine department and invited everyone to drink. Thus, they only dispersed in the wee hours of the morning. After agreeing to meet again, Zhang Wei returned to the Imperial Guard's camp, while Lin Muyu brought Qin Yin back to the Divine Palace. Qin Yin's yearning for Lin Muyu was too deep, to the extent that she could not leave him at all. There was no other way. That night, Lin Muyu could only sleep with his clothes on, while Qin Yin slept at the side, hugging one of Lin Muyu's arms, as if she was afraid that he would fly away. The moonlight shone on the room like water, landing on Qin Yin's snow-white sleeping face. Lin Muyu turned to look at her and suddenly felt her heart brighten. The 3 years of painful struggle seemed to be for this moment of sweetness and happiness. As long as she was by his side, all the pain and suffering he had suffered were nothing. The next morning, after washing up early, she sent Qin Yin back to Zetian Palace. Lin Muyu was still in the Imperial Guard's attire. Although there were no more Imperial Guards in the palace, and after the battle in Lanyan City, there were only a few of the 200 Imperial Guards left. Perhaps only Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and a few others were left. As for Qin Lei, Chu Huaying Zhuge Yun, and the others, they had all died for the country, which made people sigh. There was no morning court that day. It was not until dusk that news came from afar that Tang Xiaoxi had led 2,000 National Garrison Army troops to Lanyan City. Lin Muyu did not show up and had been hiding in the back hall of Zetian Palace to cultivate. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had left behind a broken sword for Lin Muyu to refine. However, no matter how hard Lin Muyu tried, she was still one step away from refining the sword. It was as if the sword was not made of ordinary iron. Qin Yin personally went to welcome Tang Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu waited for a long time. Finally, a sound came from the front hall. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had returned. She also heard the voices of Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, and Xiahou Sang. They had all returned. The people from the House of Chivalry are too cunning. There is no end to killing them. They are like cockroaches, Feng Jixing said hatefully. Wei Chou said, it doesn't matter. We'll take it one step at a time. Tang Xiaoxi said, you can still go around conquering the House of Chivalry. It's so lively. Why don't you think about me? I've been staying in the demon-subduing pass for a few months. I'm bored to death. By the way, Xiaoyin, when are we going to go hunting? I'll give you a surprise first. Oh, what surprise? Stand still and don't move. Qin Yin smiled and flashed out of the screen. Then she waved her hand and said, let's go into the back hall. Look who this is. The crowd walked in one after another. But in the next moment, they were all petrified. They stared at the front with their mouths agape. It was as if they could no longer speak. Lin Muyu was wearing the Imperial Guard's armor. He stood there straight. His expression had not changed. It was as if he was still the same Lin Muyu from 3 years ago. Looking at the crowd, he cupped his fists and smiled. Hello everyone. Feng Jixing was dumbfounded. His eyes instantly turned red. Is it really you? Wei Chou stood there in a daze. Commander, Xiahou Sang, sir. Only Tang Xiaoxi walked straight forward. Her beautiful eyes were filled with undisguised love. She asked, is it really Mu? Lin Muyu smiled. Xiaoxi, you've grown even more beautiful. Tang Xiaoxi immediately knew that this was him. No one else would talk to her like this. She cried and said, Mu, I have a gift for you. What gift? Tang Xiaoxi stepped forward. She stood on her tiptoes and held his face. A fragrant kiss landed on Lin Muyu's lips. It was just a light touch, but this was Tang Xiaoxi's style. She dared to love and hate. After the forceful kiss, her face was already red. She took several steps back and looked at Lin Muyu with a burning gaze. Mu, did you miss me? Yes. Lin Muyu wailed in his heart. What should he do? Xiao Yin was watching from the side. Would she beat him to death? Qin Yin bit her red lips. Her beautiful eyes were filled with helplessness. She was speechless. Tears flowed down her face. Shall she this fellow? I haven't even, and she beat me to it. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have held back last night. Just as the two girls were immersed in their own thoughts, Feng Jixing had already rushed over. He hugged Lin Muyu and laughed. You really didn't die. It's true, brother Feng. Lin Muyu laughed. You didn't expect to see me again, did you? Yes. Feng Jixing's eyes were red. I would only see you on the nation-guarding monument in the future. Tell me, how did you survive? Someone said he saw you being killed by Luo Lan. What happened? Lin Muyu was sad. But Chu Huaipin, Qin Lei, and Lei Hong could only see them on the nation-guarding monument. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.